Just wanna feel purple yellow.
Welcome to the 9th episode of the Purple, Yellow, Red and Blue podcast, a Portugal The Man podcast. Let's get into it. Each podcast I'm joined by guests to talk about everything going on with Portugal The Man. Basically this week is a special week, we have the release of Chris Black, Changed My Life. It's here after many years of singles, features, other bands working with Portugal The Man. We have the official thing, 2023's Chris Black, Changed My Life, which came out on June 23rd. So that's pretty much everything we're going to be talking about. We're going to go for the album. I'm going to go by track, some initial thoughts to begin with. And then at the end, looking forward, like what's to come afterwards. Not to move on immediately, but that's kind of the idea. To look forward, to see what's next, or what could be next, and what we both think. And obviously we have the PTM Song game, which I've been catching people out, so that's been fun. To see people nervous and sweating. That's what I want to do. You can find this podcast, past and future episodes, up on YouTube, Spotify and Google. I need to make the audio files for Spotify and Google because MP4 doesn't really want to work. I'll get around to it. If you're listening on YouTube, leave us a like, helps more people find the show. Big thank you to my mate Liam, who does all the artwork for this, and probably the thumbnail as well. My name is Mark, and my guest joining me today is...
My name is Josh, aka Gerald Fjord, in the Discord.
Returning guest as well. Excellent. How you doing, Josh, on this Saturday afternoon evening?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. It's the summer in the UK at the moment, and I'm feeling pretty good. It's warm, but it's not sweltering. How about you? How's the weather your end of the world, across the pond?
It's a little gray and rainy, but it's still all right. I can't complain. It's not raining too hard. It's like a nice mist.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so not too warm for you, not too humid. I know it gets pretty warm over in the US during the summer, a lot more than it does over here. And I've been told about that 30 degrees is not warm enough to be worried about it. But, that's some people's opinion. So.
You're speaking in Celsius, so I don't know what that means.
Alright, only uses Fahrenheit, country. Alright, you're on your own.
It's like 82 degrees Fahrenheit here, so whatever that would be in Celsius. There's a nice breeze, though, and it's overcast, so it's, nice.
Okay. It's rain today. It's 22, which... What a start. Welcome back to the weather podcast. We talk about heat. Degrees in Celsius.
I think
22.
It's 68 degrees. Yeah, it looks
70...
like 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
It says 71 for me, but around there. So yeah, 22 degrees. It's kind of been overcast as well. Best weather day, but to be honest, the last few weekends have been really humid, and I don't want to deal with that. Have you been up to anything today? I think you mentioned you had some friends over or something.
Yeah, we're just hanging out by the pool, listening to some music. I just got done listening to the new album again. I've listened to it probably 100 times by now, it feels like.
That's right, though. I think you just have to. I think you've got to listen to it. I've probably listened to it about 10 times through, minimum. Probably. I'm not overdoing it. I'm doing one per day. It's not burnout. But yeah.
No, see, I can just sit there and listen to it multiple times in a row just because I really love it. I think it's great. So I can just sit there and listen to every track multiple times over.
Excellent. And you said you were having a barbecue or something earlier as well? Tell me about that.
Yep, we're just chilling. That's it was what it was, just hanging out by the pool. That's the best part. That's just an American pastime, hanging out by the pool, grilling and stuff like that. Can't go wrong.
Don't mind a bit of grilling. Don't mind a bit of barbecue food. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. But yeah, you said you listened to it a lot recently. I think we'll just jump in, Josh, if you're alright with that.
Yeah, of course.
How are you feeling about Chris Black Changed My Life? What are your your opening statement if we're in a court case?
Yeah, I think it's just amazing. I think it's easily like one of their best albums probably ever, in my opinion. I just think it's really good.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I know I only mentioned I've probably listened to it 10 plus times because I don't want to burn it out, because I've listened to other stuff and listened to it like 3 times on the first day. After a while I'm like, yeah, I've heard it, but I'm pacing myself and I'm really enjoying it. I've really enjoyed the build up this year. It's been really fun. I feel like the cadence of singles coming out, I thought they were going to do too many, but then at the end it was like, at the end I feel like it was a good amount to do.
And I think they saved kind of some of the best for last as well.
Well.
Like, I've been asking for Grim Generation for over a year, and I can't believe they never released it as a single, or at least they haven't yet.
John took that personally.
So finally,
he took your comment
finally
personally.
for when they finally released it just on the album, I was hyped to be able to hear the studio version of it after so long.
Because we only had like a knockoff on YouTube available to listen to before that. So that's where I heard it.
And then I think Endless Throwaway Account. For some reason I'm struggling. Chris, right?
Yeah, it's Chris.
I think he had a decent bootleg of it from like the Alt J tour. And so that was like another thing to listen to. It was on the cassette that he released from, I think it was like a show in Seattle or something like that.
That's right, yes. Oh, yeah, wow. Gosh. Has that really been... Was that not even a year ago? Wow, that feels...
I don't know when he released the cassette, but that tour, it's been over a year.
Over a year now, yeah. Christ.
I think that tour ended in like April or early May of 2022.
Oh, blimey. Wow. Over a year, basically. And they're back touring already. I mean, I've already seen a few clips. I was watching one before the show today of them doing some outside shows. They've also got some bigger shows coming up as well. I thought they would only be doing like 4 or 5 shows, but they're actually playing quite a lot of gigs, to be honest, for the rest of the year, which is good to see. The more people that can hear them, the better.
I was thrown off by that because I think their manager, Rich, at one point just said on Reddit to people, don't expect there to be a full tour. We're gonna play like a few shows here and there, but I do feel like they've announced more shows than I was expecting. But then again, I guess you could always say that Portugal The Man used to do some like ridiculous amount of shows every year. So even if they are playing like 30 compared to what they usually play, that's like really not that much.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely not going to hit the heights of 2018 where they did, what was it, almost 300 shows in a year, which is just not human. Like, why would you be playing every Monday, basically? Like, give yourself a day off.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they, hopefully got to chill a bit between like 2018, 2019, and now, or at least even last year when they did the tour with Alt J, because they did a decent amount of shows in 2022.
Yeah, they did quite a few actually, ramping up to this, to be honest, and they started dropping little teasers, a bit like Grim Generation, along the way, just sort of playing them. Yeah, little teaser along the way, as you would do.
What Me Worry as well.
What Me Worry, yes,
What Me Worry kind of, and I've seen people discuss if that was on Chris Black Changed My Life, where do you think it would be? Did you ever give an answer to that?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think I could, because every song is so individual, I feel like it could just slot in. But where, I'm not 100% sure. What were you thinking for this one?
I wanted to say right after Heavy Games. I mean, Grim Generation works really well as well, but I just think because it was the first single for this era, I would say.
Yes.
And I think it just did a good job of establishing the tone, and I think it would have fit in really well, like right after Heavy Games and before Grim Generation.
That's a good way of putting it. First single of this generation, of this era, as you said. Yeah.
Yep.
It probably was a part of this at one point, but maybe they had it ready for so long, and they were like, let's just get this out here. The way modern music is nowadays, people can just start listening to it, so I'm sure they considered that.
I mean, It's one of those things where if they had put it on there, because it is kind of a short album, you know, it's only 34 minutes. With What Me Worry on there, even though it had already been released, it would have at least bumped the runtime up to 38. So, like, I'm certainly
Huge
not
difference.
yeah, well, it is. It's closer to 40 minutes as opposed to just half an hour, you know. And again, it's not that huge of a deal. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, because of course I'm gonna want a longer Portugal the Man album. Granted, I can always just add it into a playlist, you know, and throw What Me Worry in between Grim Generation and Heavy Games.
You can't do that. What are you talking about? Yeah, you can do that. You definitely go do that. Yeah. I would be interested though, not to deviate too much, but when John first started talking about this on the Reddit, on the Discord, put out some artwork of a bunch of song titles on the what would be now the album artwork. And it'd be interesting to go back and have a look at them to see, because I think at one point I asked him and he said 14 to 15. Maybe like 12 to 14, so maybe some other things got cut out. I don't know, maybe...
Well, I remember there was like a funny thread in the subreddit. I can't remember what started it, because this was probably at least 2, maybe even 3 years ago now, where someone had asked something or there was a discussion going on, and then John just left a really random comment, and then someone figured out, like, oh, is that like an unreleased song title? And then he like responded to that with something that was obviously like some sort of song title. And so people just kept like asking him stuff. I think I said something like, "You're not going to tell us another one? Like, you're too much of a wuss," or something like that. And I think he commented like, it might have even been like doubt or something like that, where I was like, "Oh, no way, like that's cool." Is he like, and I think a few of the things he did say ultimately are songs on here. I just can't remember which ones because it's been so long.
Yeah, it has been a while. I mean, the kind of build up to this has been at least 18 months, if not longer. Like, I mean, since I've started doing this, which was over a year ago, there's been build up. So, yeah, it would be interesting. I might go do that afterwards, just have a quick little dig, see if I can find anything, unearth anything. It would be interesting to see. But again, they're just names, and names can change. So we have nothing to go off, but maybe they'll have stuff, down the line for us. I mean, John already today is teasing about some demos and bits and pieces on the Discord, so maybe some demos, maybe some, different music videos as well. We'll talk about that later at the tail end. We'll talk about what's next, but yeah, that's something to consider. Yeah.
I want to stay focused on the album, but what you're just saying does make me think. One thing that I thought was interesting is I saw people commenting that the credits were kind of different on this album, where I guess like Eric wasn't credited on anything and Zach was like hardly credited on any of the songs. So I just wonder how different their process may have been recording this album as opposed to any of the previous ones. And I don't necessarily mean that in like a bad way. I just wouldn't, because they already, I feel like, would end up with so many leftover songs. I mean, they completely scrapped Gloomin' and Doomin', we all know. So it does always make you wonder. I wonder what's left that didn't make the album. And who knows, maybe they are going to have a quick turnaround and have something new for us, even if it's like an EP or a single, before we even realize it. And it wouldn't be that crazy, because nowadays I feel like King Gizzard has really set a precedent, and I kind of hope that more bands will see that. And even if it's giving us singles a little more frequently, would be cool, as opposed, because it was a long wait. Chris Black was certainly worth it, because like I said, this is easily one of my favorite Portugal the Man albums, but it was a wait from 2017 to 2023, and so much happened in between that time.
So much did happen. I mean, you have everything from Feel It Still to John's Jaw almost giving up, and everything in between. And you can sort of understand, okay, plus the pandemic in there, which, they can't tour. Obviously they can write, but maybe you're not as inspired, and it kind of just like increases that timeline. So, I know other bands put stuff out during the pandemic, and yeah, fair play to them. I've enjoyed that. I've been a real advocate for the 9-track album, so having 10 plus an intro of Heavy Games is, I'm absolutely fine with that time, that amount anyway. It just means I can, I feel like it's more quality over quantity. I think
for sure.
Censored Colours was 15 tracks, something like that. And I know you have like kind of bits and pieces that are kind of woven in, but this is...
Yeah, Censored Colors was 15 tracks, and it was 53 minutes long.
It's a long one. 53. Wow.
I'm an album guy, though. I'm like a total album guy, so I really love, as long as it's good. I really love a long album.
Mm.
That's the trick. It has to be good. Describe this album as like a diamond, you know? Like, I feel like there's so much pressure at different points for the band as they're trying to like make this album. And there's so much time, and there's so many things that happen to them all personally, it sounds like, as well as just to the world. And I just feel like that pressure kind of came together and managed to form this like amazing album.
But you're absolutely right. That's a good analogy, actually. I like that diamond thing. I was just going to ask, comparing it to what's a recent release that you were really favourable of, that you were thinking, oh man, I really wish Portugal Man could do something like this. What's something like that?
I think they absolutely delivered with Chris Black Changed My Life. And I'm not on their marketing team, you know. I'm not getting paid to say this. It's just
neither am I. I've paid them more.
It's just what I genuinely think. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what new albums have come out recently that I've really like been that interested in. Unknown Mortal Orchestra had a new album come out this year. That was awesome, but like they had Unknown Mortal Orchestra on this album, you know. So like I can't ask for too much about that. And then I just listen to like a lot of live bootlegs from bands and stuff, so I necessarily don't even follow. Unless I really like a band, I'm not necessarily jumping in to hear new albums and stuff like as soon as I can. But yeah, I was saying, I think people have said there's a lot of American ghetto kind of in this album, and I agree a little bit with that. And then in the Discord, I had just been saying a couple days ago that to me this is like, they've mentioned wanting to make Dark Side of the Moon before, like their version of that, and I totally think this is that. I think this is a totally amazing album that just has really awesome lyrics, like a great theme to it, amazing flow from beginning to end, and I think that's one of the best parts of a Portugal the Man live performance, is just the flow that they have from one song to the next, just the whole time. And I think some of their albums have that better than others, and this is one of those albums where they managed to capture that feeling and that just energy and flow from track to track that I think they struggle with sometimes on their studio albums.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'm also a big advocate as well, and I think the wait. You're absolutely right with what you said about the 6-year wait, everything in between, like you were saying, and maybe there's struggles previously, but I'm really happy with this one. I'm not very emotive at the moment, sorry to say. I would be more pumped up, and I should be for YouTube, but I'm very positive about this. I don't know, do you wanna just jump straight in? We go track by track and sort of dive a bit deeper, or do you have anything else overall you want to say about Chris Black? Oh yeah, go on, definitely.
Yeah, last thing I'd want to say about the album as a whole is just again, I like Woodstock, but I definitely enjoy this way more. And I think with Woodstock, obviously, it felt like they were trying to, be a little more mainstream, I guess. And all the tracks felt like they wanted to be singles. But I think that kind of sacrificed what I was just talking about, that flow that Portugal the Man is so good at, that I really love. It definitely felt like more of an album of singles as opposed to one long story. Like Evil Friends, kind of felt like a little bit of a loose concept album. I would say even in The Mountain and the Cloud, or really any of their previous albums, always felt like there was a through line. Whereas with Woodstock, I know they had mentioned, part of the influence of it was being at a music festival and how you go around and can experience all these different types of music. And I kind of get that from the album, but then when you do that, it sort of makes things different, because if you're going to see some DJ at one stage, which I think, maybe Noise Pollution would have a little bit of that kind of electronic influence.
Yeah.
And then you go to another stage and you see a band like 21 Pilots or something, which is what, what was that song? 21 Pilots and stuff. Whereas this, it's the whole album, like Dark Side of the Moon. It feels like it's taking you on this journey, and it's not kind of bouncing around from one thing to the next, but it's all one cohesive thing. And that's just what I love.
Yeah. I should just Easy Tiger is track 2, Tidal Waves later on. Sorry to jump in. I agree actually, and the idea of the collective concept album is very much here in this album. Almost like twin tracks, they sort of jump. We'll get into it more when we go in depth, but yeah, you're absolutely right with that sort of how it flows as well. It flows. You're right. This feels like it was built. This is a piece. This works together. It tells an emotive story on two sides, which again we'll get into as we go through. But I feel like the first side and the B side, if you will, it's kind of like maybe reflective on one of the track title names later down the line. And also, you mentioned In the Mountain and the Cloud. I noticed that they played Once Was One at a recent live show as well. So a shout out to Once Was One from In the Mountain and the Cloud. I haven't thought about that one in a little while.
That's definitely one of my favorite songs off that album. So it was cool. I know they played it in the Bonnaroo live stream. I think they played part of it. I don't know if they played the whole thing. I think they played like part of it during a jam at the end of might have been like Guns and Dogs or something like that. Maybe So American. I can't really remember.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember where I've seen it now, but I do remember seeing Once Was One. So there you go. All right then, Josh. We'll start off with track 1, Heavy Games, featuring Jeff Bhasker, who Jeff, I believe, he's credited for producing this album as well. Am I correct with that? I believe so.
I believe he was like the producer. And then there's another guy, maybe John Hill or someone I think they usually work with. He might have been credited as well.
Heavy Games featuring Jeff Bhasker. The intro to it, the first track that was released as a single, but as I mentioned with Amy a couple of podcasts ago, we actually couldn't find it on like Apple Music or Spotify or anything like that. It was just like a YouTube video, like a tease, and it was maybe they wanted us to watch it, maybe to glue our eyes onto it. I don't know. Maybe there's some deeper thinking there. Maybe we'll save it to the album. I don't know. But yeah, what are you? How you feeling about Heavy Games Part 2? The follow up to the 2014 classic Heavy Games.
Well, I think it just does a great job at really laying out what this album is going to talk about. It's short and sweet, but I think it really sets the tone very well.
As I take a sip, I would say yes, absolutely. A great tone setter for the album at the beginning. Just, you're going on there's a theme to this, and this is the entree. This is the sample. This is what what's it down for? Bring
back parts of this song, the refrain, like Heavy Games, Can't Take This Back. It's at least 3 songs, I think. They kind of revisit that. So there's like Heavy Games, and then looking at the track listing, I think they might bring it back in Times of Fantasy, maybe Anxiety Clarity.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. If not, the idea is definitely there anyway. All I can think about that song is Disneyland, but we'll get onto Disneyland later.
Yeah.
I mean, Anxiety Clarity. But this track, when I first did like a piece on it on one of the podcasts, I said I liked it. This track has actually grown on me quite a bit more. I really like this within the context of the album. Like you were saying, I like to listen to things as part of the album, front to back, start to finish, that was made for an album. Alright, I do like I have like a playlist of everything else that I do like, but everything, Chris Black, I like starting off with this. It's a good tone setter. It's okay, we're in here. And I really like it. Part of the album, yeah, definitely. And probably more originally, I should say, I like it more now as part of the album than when it was on its own. Probably because we didn't have the full context. That's probably why, but yeah, really enjoying it. This is actually the 3rd shortest PTM track. Do you want to have a guess at what number 1 and number 2 are? I can give you number 2. What are we thinking?
So there was that track on American Ghetto. I think it was track 2.
Yep.
It's just sort of like I remember the vocals are reversed. It's called Break.
That's it. That is 58 seconds long, but there's actually one shorter than that. I looked this up earlier. I'm like, wow, I completely forgot about this. Do you have any idea?
I mean, it's not the album version of the song Sun Brother, is it?
No, it's
on Church Mouse.
No, that's about 2 minutes long. But I like what you're thinking with that one. It's actually from It's Complicated Being a Wizard. It's the opener, Opal Magic. It's 50
okay.
seconds. And I saw that, I was like, really? Oh, okay.
So yeah, the whole album's only 23 minutes, so I guess it's not a surprise.
Yeah, no. But yeah, seeing that as, wow, this is the third shortest. And obviously we could talk about length of tracks on this as we go throughout, but they kind of all keep to about 3 minutes or just over, apart from the ending track, which is about 5 to 6 minutes long. Yeah, as you said, 34 minutes. And maybe if they would chuck in What Me Worry, closer to 40 than 30, I'll give you that now. Actually thinking about it, I've talked myself into it. I'm agreeing with you, Josh. There you go. You're right.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even like it matters that much, It's not really a complaint. Just one of those things where for me mentally, I guess just seeing 38 instead of 34 would make my brain happier. I know that sounds weird, but it's just one of those things where if you tell someone like, oh, this album's 40 minutes long, they're like, okay, that's like a normal album. Whereas if you say like, oh, this album's like 30 minutes long, then it's like, oh, that's like a pretty short album.
Oh yeah. Do you have any other thoughts with Heavy Games? Anything else you want to say?
No.
I've got
Beautiful song.
Yeah. I've got I really like how this track flows straight into the next one seamlessly. With the YouTube version, you've got the little intro to what's next, which is Grim Generations. You see like John's like ice skating, and then like they're wearing the Kiss makeup and everything, and then it goes straight into Grim Generation. And they obviously, I think they like edited it, so Heavy Games a little shorter, Grim Generation is a little bit more long. They've kind of tacked that onto the next one. Not that it makes a difference. I just noticed that was something. But if we're done with Heavy Games, the next track after we've listened to that is Grim Generation. How are you feeling with the Grim Ganja Generation, as we name once upon a time?
It was certainly worth the wait,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be great just that first time I heard it live, and it absolutely delivered. It was actually even better than like what I was expecting it to be. I like the little voice at the beginning. That's like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we are starting off phenomenally strong. Track 2, Grim Generation. I think it's amazing. This is probably in my top 3 or 4 PTM songs. I have to admit, Grim Generation has lived up to the billing. I think it's amazing. I am blown away by this one. I am really glad that we have this now. Just, oh man, what a great song! What a great song!
I can't believe it hasn't been released as a single yet. Because it's like, I think one of their most fun, best songs for sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, to get into it deeper, I think the production levels are really high with this one. The harmonising after, I think that's incredible, really. I think that's just perfect.
What? I think it's something that really elevates a band, like just good vocal harmonies, especially. I think because look at the Beach Boys. I'm not really like a Beach Boy fan, but I feel like that's something they're often like when people say how great they were. That's one of the things that people bring up is just the vocal harmonies and stuff that they would do were just so amazing, and I think very influential on pop music. So I think harmonies and stuff are an important thing, and you can be great without them. Like Portugal The Man. It's like when I saw them in 2018, it was amazing and one of my favorite shows. But even Zoe wasn't there with them. I think it was just John, Zach, Kyle, Jason, and Eric. And so the harmonies just weren't as strong as when they have like Zoe with them. And then even now with more backing vocalists, it really fills out the sound in a way that I never even thought they needed. Because just hearing the 5 of them on stage sounds absolutely amazing, and you think this couldn't be any better, but then you see them live with even more musicians and you're like, oh, okay, I guess they can somehow be even better.
Yeah, I totally agree with the harmonising. Like I said, I think it's bloody brilliant. And you're right, I haven't heard them live, so I'll let you take the crown on that one, because I don't know personally, obviously through listening to bootlegs and stuff like that, but I was teased a little bit when they were doing the shows. I saw one of the shows said London and Canada. I was like, thanks. I got my hopes up for about 5 seconds until I clicked on the link and was like, zoom out. That's several thousand miles away. Never mind. Yeah, following on, these lyrics are really catchy. And just an example, this grim generation's got a hold of me, plus there's a stranger at my door knocking, a toy soldier coming home from war, and I don't know, it's quite powerful. It really stands out for me. And toy soldier coming home from war, like it's all never been done before. I could basically recite the whole song. I just think it's just class. I don't know, Josh. I just think they really hit this one out the park. I don't know when they wrote this or anything. Maybe they were having a brilliant day or something. Because, yeah, I love it. I don't know how you feeling about the lyrics on Grim Generation.
I've said it before that I just love the juxtaposition of. I feel like the lyrics are a mix of like hopeful and dark, but then just how overall happy the song sounds.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, hopeful but depressing, but dark.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a weird balancing act.
Another tidbit: off the line, or dive in and join the rhyme. There is like a sound that rolls on for a few milliseconds, at most. And I'm not sure what it is, but I really like it. It's really pleasing to my ears, Josh. It's really pleasing.
Another thing that I just think is interesting, and it could just be a coincidence, but there is the line you said already, toy soldier coming home from war, and just makes me think of Plastic Soldiers and Smile has the line about plastic soldiers only growing older. I wonder if they had even consciously thought of a connection between those two things.
Well, I know John for a fact. He writes Everything Is About Alaska, as we learn through the Click Broadcasting A Deeper Dive, which was presented by Paul Williams, who we'll talk about later on in the album. He talks about Everything Is About Alaska, and I reckon growing up he had toy plastic soldiers, and he must have done anyway. And that idea coming back, I don't know, you're right about the plastic soldiers and Smile, yeah, both including it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, definitely a callback, I'd say. Yeah, and to sum it up, the ending, when it all comes together with the ensemble and the orchestra, to finish the song off, I think it works so well. It's a big finish, big powerful finish. Overall, really happy with Grim Generation. From hearing the bootlegs, from being told by Evan a couple of months ago that he had heard it live as well, and he was like, "Oh, I recorded it. I don't know what it was. I recorded it." I'm like, "What?" This is unreleased footage, and yeah, I'm so pleased with it. This is going. Again, I mentioned top 3 or 4 PTM songs. What are your top 3 or 4, Josh? What's up there overall for you?
That's tough.
I'll put you on the spot.
I think all your light, especially live when they jam for like 15 minutes, would be up there. Man. It's like I want to put Sleep Forever up there. It's not my favorite, but it's like so amazing that I feel like it would be an injustice to not include it. New Orleans off Censored Colors. I just remember seeing them play it live in 2011 the first time I saw them. I had no idea what it was. I just thought it sounded incredible. So that's like 3. Probably even I'd give Senseless a nod. I think Senseless off in the Mountain is like a really beautiful song. And then maybe like The Home or Mornings off Satanic Satanist. I think one of those 2 songs, because Mornings is just an amazing song. Kind of makes me think of Pink Floyd with the guitar solo and everything. Well, I don't know if you could even necessarily call it solo, but like the lead guitar part. Yeah. And then The Home is just, I really like the lyrics to that song. It's some of my favorite lyrics that they have.
Okay. We're so different. You go immediately to some of their like older stuff, and obviously I Purple, Yellow, Red and Blue is probably up there through nostalgia, and nostalgia alone, to be honest, because it's really what made me love them. But I don't know why, but Noise Pollution, I don't know if maybe it's the music video, maybe it's because we didn't hear from them for like years online, and then this came up and I was like, oh, this is so different. I really like this. And that was back end of 2016. It was like, oh yeah, Woodstock. And I loved it. Everything from John doing push-ups in a river to just, I don't know, super trippy music video. I just loved it, everything. But I think Grim Generation might be up there at number 3. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I realized I left out any Chris Black songs, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there would be. I just, it's so new that I guess.
It's got to earn its place.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Which it's going to for sure. Like
Yeah.
you just said, Grim Generation, definitely top tier. Doubt and Times of Fantasy are amazing. I do really like Champ. I really legit like all the songs. There's just something so awesome about all of them. And that's why, like, me picking my favorite 5 would probably be a different answer every time you ask me.
Do you have any final thoughts about Grim Generation, or should we move on to track 3? Anything else you want to sum up with?
No, but I think you only listed 3 songs. You were listing your favorites.
Oh.
I know you said Mutation, Purple, Yellow, Red, and Blue.
Maybe Got It All, maybe Sleep Forever. Yeah, maybe one of them too. I think, for me, the Sleep Forever music video is their best video. I think it's the most powerful one. Sorry?
For sure.
Yeah, the Sleep Forever one. I think for that reason anyway. The way they merge them together as well. I think it's brilliant. And those video, the video and the film of Alaska and like John walking around, and you've got like the mush dogs, the sleigh dogs. It's just, I don't know. It's so peaceful and natural and beautiful, but at the same time, so I'm not even sure the right way of putting it. Powerful.
I mean, he ends up shooting himself, and then the dogs are like eating him. You know? But it's also very beautiful. But it has that weird kind of Portugal the Man signature on it, with like a little bit of weirdness thrown in there, just like the All Your Light, the live music video. The claymation one is really cool and also weird. But the live action one is almost like unsettling, where it's like someone's got like a decapitated head. I think it might be like a little boy, and it's just a really fever dream of a music video.
That's it. They're in a trailer park or something, and he finds this decapitated head, and then the mother's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like, you know, like, and then they're dealing with that. Yeah, I haven't seen that one in a while. I wonder when we'll get a Grim Generation video, because we've got the visualizers so far.
Yeah, maybe they're holding off until closer to the autumn. Does it?
Yeah.
Just kind of give off more autumn. You know, I said this a long time ago. Like, it just makes me think of autumn. I could see it being really popular around like Halloween, especially depending on how they go with the music video. Because when I saw them on tour with Alt J, they were doing the face paint and stuff. And so John had like face paint that kind of made him look like a skeleton. And so that's just kind of what I picture when I'm hearing Grim Generation, just like a skeleton singing that song.
But yeah, Grim Generation, class, really good. Next up, track 3, Thunderdome, Welcome to America, featuring Black Thought and Natalie Lafourcade. I keep butchering it every time it comes up, Josh. I've got to learn how to say this, sorry. Thunderdome, or...
Alright.
I could do better. How are we feeling about Thunderdome?
Again, I think it's just like really sick. It does a great job of showing kind of the different influences that Portugal the Man have, and kind of just throwing variety into the album, you know, where it's not just all rock songs or anything like that. It's got the feature with Black Thought. I really love his part. He's an amazing artist, and just the flow he has during his segment's amazing. And I don't know who this Natalie is, but I mean, her vocals on it obviously add a lot as well. And it's just a really fun song that, you know, really adds a lot to the album. And like I said, it's nice because it's just got a little different flavor in there than any of the other songs.
Yeah.
But it still fits.
Yeah, definitely. I'm fond of Thunderdome, or Welcome to America. I keep calling it that because I actually remember now when we first got that artwork, some of the text around the album artwork was saying Welcome to America. So maybe it was called that at one point, and then they changed it to Thunderdome, and then in brackets WTA. Just a little thing maybe I spoiled. I don't know, maybe I'm way off, but yeah, I'm pretty fond of Thunderdome actually. It's a slower pace to the previous track, but I think it grooves along nicely nevertheless. I feel like that switch up, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, you know, I'm pretty alright with it. As you said as well, Black Thought's verses are brilliant. They're sharp, insightful. And my personal favourite is Face It, We Wasted Our Youth on the Young, which, along with the rest of the bridge, is performed just so well. Like you said, like that whole bit is just, I'm like, it doesn't sound like a PTM song. I remember we had that, not to harpen back onto Woodstock, but we had another extract from a rapper on Mr. Lonely, and
I was gonna say,
this one
the
hits
song
a lot harder. But so yes, you were.
I agree with you 100%.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, it's definitely like it made me think of So Young and Mr. Lonely both. You know, So Young more John's part, and then Mr. Lonely just the fact that it has like I don't even know if Black Thought would necessarily just be considered like a hip hop artist, but simply having that feature on there, it's like Mr. Lonely, but I think it just sounds better.
Yeah, and I had to look it up, but the lyrics, because there's a little bit at the beginning. I don't know if you actually catch it. It's all the little gatos lose their cabeza this time of year, as I put on a small Spanish accent, which I had to look at. I thought, I did hear that. Yeah, it's peculiar, but they love doing the little like lines at the beginning, which we'll go on to mention several other times throughout this. But again, with the rapper, I know they're big fans of Wu-Tang Clan as well. Maybe it's just a bit of homage to that as well, because I know they're big fans of it, of the group. So it's got to be something there. Maybe I'm talking out my arse, but there's got to be something there. I'm sure that's where they do that. And they partner with, as John said in previous articles, Black Thought, who I think he called the greatest lyricist of all time. I'm pretty sure, not to. Yeah, I think those were more or less his words. There you go. Those are his words.
No, yeah, it's just the fact, and I mentioned this in the Discord, where throughout the album it's got little snippets of either like people talking, or sometimes almost sounds like someone like going through the stations on a radio, like kind of tuning in and out of stuff. And I feel like that's gotta be, I think there's a lot of 90s albums especially, I don't know if it's specifically just hip-hop, but I think that was sort of a common theme then. At least I'm pretty sure with the Beastie Boys, they have like a few albums where that's a thing, where in between tracks there might be a quick thing where it's just them like goofing around saying weird stuff, or just that classic like kind of staticky sound of someone tuning of like through different stations on a radio. You just catch snippets of it before the next song starts. Whereas on Dark Side of the Moon as well, it's just part of the album, just faint little bits of hearing people talking and stuff like that in the songs or in between the songs. And I wonder if that's kind of what they were going for on this album.
Yeah, potentially. I like that analogy about the radio station. Although I think all the tracks kind of... No, I feel like the first half and the second half, on their own, they all fit together. Yeah, I get where you're going with that. Yeah, Thunderdome, which was released as a single, so we'll probably... I think we'll get a video for this, probably featuring Tank Dog, which we've been recording for over 45 minutes, and this is the first I've mentioned. Either of us has mentioned the Tank Dog yet. Yeah, I'm excited to see the rest of these videos with Tank Dog in it, especially with a video called Welcome to America. I'm sure there'll be a few little Easter eggs in there, i.e. a InfoWars newspaper being burnt, that type of thing,
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up Tank Dog, because you had mentioned earlier about the rollout and kind of how it's been about a year and a half or a year. You could say that they've been building up to the album, but that Tank Dog character, and especially the kind of style that a lot of the promo stuff has been around for quite a while now. I mean, Tank Dog is on the Racism is for Chode shirt that I have.
Yes.
That I think I've had that shirt now for maybe like 5 years or something like that. 4 or 5 years. So it's interesting to me that while the album just came out, they've clearly had that, just ready to go, that character already developed and created for such a long time.
Yeah, now you mention it, actually. They've had this character a long time, haven't they? And I've just realised that. You're right, maybe John's been waiting for the perfect opportunity. Because I wonder if did they have it during Woodstock? I wonder if there was... She said 5 years. So maybe it was something that came out after that.
I think it was. I think I've had this shirt for maybe like 4 years. It would have been after Woodstock, but within like a year and a half or so of Woodstock coming out. I think is the earliest time I remember seeing the Tank Dog character on the shirts. And then I know I've got at least one other shirt that I bought from them at a show in 2021 that also has like similar characters on it. That might have even had the more developed Tank Dog. I'd have to go look at it, but when I say that, I mean more like the character we see in the video, where it's actually like got a body and isn't just literally a tank with like the dog head around the turret part.
He's got some cans as well. He's got a backside.
Yeah, exactly.
And John eats dog food. Anyway, Thunderdome, track 3. Pretty keen on that one. Pretty fond of that one. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts for Thunderdome?
I'd just say thumbs up for sure.
Thumbs up. We're up to track 4, which second track released? Dummy.
I think it was after Heavy Games.
It was after. Yeah, it was probably after. Dummy, yeah. I just have to say, this track is just so much fun. I really get a kick out of this. This is probably, for this album, one of my favourites, definitely. Yeah, I really like Dummy. How are you feeling about the track, about Doomsday and The Last Dance and The End of the World, but it being an alright time? How are you feeling about Dummy and the track itself?
I mean, I like it, I think, while, like I said, I do like it a lot. It might be one of my least favorite songs on the album. Again, it's not a track that I'd skip or anything. I still like it, but just the beginning part, especially watching John perform it live, in like the Bonnaroo live stream, as well as that show they did in New York City. It just didn't translate well, in my opinion. It sounded kind of weird. But the song itself, other than that, I really like. I think it's really fun. They had mentioned around when What Me Worry came out, kind of being influenced by like Mad Magazine and stuff like that. And so this song starts with the line, "My religion is a piano hanging over my head." And that's obviously sort of like a cartoony, comic bookish scenario to have, where the piano falls and the character gets like flattened like an accordion, and it's like funny. There's just a lot of fun imagery in the song.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good. I didn't know about that Mad Magazine, not Mad Men, something else. But the Mad Magazine, that actually makes a lot of sense now in my head. Yeah, I completely get that.
They've got the line, "Paint a tunnel on the wall, escape before the anvil falls." That's straight out of like Looney Tunes. That's how Roadrunner would get away from like Wile E. Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote, the Acme anvil. Yes. No, that makes complete sense. Yeah, definitely.
The chorus though, the chorus, kind of weak, just because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody get on the dance floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 4 a.m. and I'm wide awake. I feel like that's kind of weak.
Okay,
I mean, that's it's a trope, I'm sure there's probably hundreds of other songs out there where the chorus is like 1, 2, 3, 4, ba 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 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like, I think, been done a bunch, so I also think that might be part of why I would say this is my least favorite song.
I think that's a very valid point, actually. Something I've got some notes here. That's something I didn't write down, that it is a little, come on everyone, join in. Everyone, we all know this part, yeah, come join. We'd like this to be the catchy part, as
Yeah.
And, the Jason intro, I think that's quite innovative. As you mentioned, maybe perform live if it isn't him and if it isn't done properly. Maybe it's a bit weird, I think the chorus is really catchy, probably just for intention. But, yeah, a little, I get where you're coming from. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, though. Push back and say, have they done it before? I don't think they've done it before.
Not that I can off the top of my head.
No, it's very different. So I think not as like a one-off, you get to do this once sort of thing, but for me, they've done it. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think this is probably the...
No, yeah. And the part where he's singing, "The light is going out, the light in my life is going out," I think that's like a really beautiful part. And I really like those lyrics. So it's not the whole song, it's just a few parts here and there, but there's still a lot going for this song. I think that redeems it.
Yeah, I mean, if they could tweak those lyrics there, I definitely... I would. I'm in agreement with you. I don't think they're amazing, but they fit the cause. It's an interesting concept for a track as well. Like Doomsday. I know John's mentioned it as like the kid who can't go to sleep. It's the end of the world or something. Like, let's have one last dance. Something I'm butchering that a little bit, but that's kind of the idea, the thought for that. Yeah, and it's actually the first track to get a lyric video and well, not a music video, because I suppose that Heavy Games Part 2 did as well, but the first track to get a lyric video, which is kind of like an alternative music video if you haven't heard it already. It's interesting, some different shots. Yeah, I quite enjoyed both videos, to be honest. You know, Tank Dog running around being mental, being crazy. Yeah.
Well, it also made me think of the Sun music video a little bit, where I think it's Zach, and he's dressed up as some animal. I can't remember what it is. It's like a sheep or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's probably a homage back to that. They've done that before. I think in that one he's looking for booze or something, and he's like looking for fags, and he's like wasted or something. Maybe it was like
then in Dummy, there is a part, I don't know if it explicitly says, but when he's in like a bar, that might be the Dead Dog, which is the bar that they sing about, obviously, in the song on American Ghetto, right? I can't remember if it's ever been confirmed that's where he's at, but I think that's kind of what I was picturing during that part of the music video.
Is there a sign that says anything about the Dead Dog in there? I can't, not off the top of my head.
I haven't watched it in a couple months.
Yeah. We'll ask the question. We'll throw that out there. We'll throw that, and I'm actually kind of curious, to be honest. That's a nice little bit of Easter egg. Portugal the Man, the Dead Dog Easter egg. Yeah, because that was the bar. Obviously, I remember John talking about it a long time ago. Like, you wouldn't want to end up at the Dead Dog, basically. Like it was the rundown bar, basically. Then Tank Dog is there, so tells you how he's getting on. I'll be interested to see the rest of the videos, though. See what his character arc is. I mean, it caps off with him being beaten to death, so interesting. But yeah, Dummy, I reckon this is probably the most mainstream track of the album. I know that's a weird concept to bring up, but I see this being the most like, oh, we're playing this live on this show, and we're doing this for 2 minutes 30 seconds or whatever. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's got the most the most mainstream wide appeal. But yeah,
I disagree. I think it's definitely Grim Generation.
Okay.
I think it's like the perfect song for that, because I think it has amazing lyrics. I think just amazing vocals, like you mentioned. The production on it is incredible. It sounds amazing, but it's also accessible.
Yeah, okay. I'll take the pushback. I mean, we'll find out see what they do live, and I think both of them are really good. So I'm not complaining. We've got both of them, so yeah, no, that's fair. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dummy, maybe because it came out earlier as well. Maybe it'll get a little bit more love by the normies. I don't know, but by the casuals. But we'll see. I suppose it's just something I thought to myself. That was all. Yeah. Do you have any? I haven't really got anything else to say about. Yeah, it's great. I really like it. Yeah, slots in pretty nicely for my playlists anyway. And then within the album, it's a little bit different, but I don't think it's out of place too much. I don't know. I feel like I can get away with it with this one. I don't know. I could be wrong, but hey ho, I'm no expert. Do you have any final thoughts on Dummy then, Josh?
No. Well, I think it's a great song for sure.
Excellent. Coming up, track number 5 is Summer of Love, with the already mentioned featuring Unknown Mortal Orchestra from New Zealand. Funnily enough, Josh, it was a Glastonbury last weekend, and we had Alt J and Unknown Mortal Orchestra both at Glastonbury, and I was like, I wonder. No chance, but yeah, they were there, and I didn't know they were from New Zealand as well, so maybe a collaboration started.
Portland, Ruben Nielsen, and I think really everyone else in the band is from Portland, so I know the first time I saw Portugal the Man live, Unknown Mortal Orchestra was on their first U.S. tour. It was right before they released their first album, so I think they go way back, Portugal the Man, then UMO, and right. Ruben, I believe, he and his brother Cody, who last I knew was on drums in UMO when they're touring, and they were in the Mint Chicks together before UMO started. I think they both have dual citizenship between New Zealand and the US.
Ah, right. I didn't know about that, about their collaborator being from Portland. That would make a lot of sense, obviously, both bands being from the Northwesterners. Oh, right, that's good knowledge there. Yeah. Summer of Love featuring
The
us.
dude, well, I was just gonna say also real quick, the dude who used to play drums, I believe, in Unknown Mortar Orchestra, it was their original drummer. He actually, I think, was the producer of Oregon City Sessions. They might
Really?
even like recorded it in that guy's studio. Yeah, Jacob Portrait, I believe, is his name.
Oh, wow, this is great. I had no idea. I had no idea that this collaboration... Again, I'll mention it later, but they've done like maybe one or two features, like not even that many features or like collabs on a studio album, and this album there's loads in comparison, and it just shows you how much moving power that Feel It still had, that they can go out, and we've got people like unknown, obviously now that I know that they've had that long-standing relationship, but that's pretty cool to see that they can be like, yeah, let's get some people that we like working with, that like, you know, I remember John saying that during between albums they were like, we're gonna jam with the people and see if it works, you know, see what happens, have fun. Unknown Mortal Orchestra on Summer of Love. How you enjoying it? How you liking it? How you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's a really fun song. I'm a big fan of it. I like the vibes. It's got that awesome sax on it. Can't complain about that. Almost in some ways, because the sax makes me think of like Midnight City by M83. I remember when that song came out and was like huge, and
Yes.
Summer Love just kind of gives me similar vibes a little bit. Not as dancey, obviously, but just, you know, it's a fun track for sure.
Yeah, I hence the name. I would call it like a summer kind of groovy, maybe soul song. But you're right about the M83. I can sort of see that. I can sort of see where you're coming from that. Yeah. Gosh, that was a long time ago now.
It's just the saxophone, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's really it. I guess by that logic, any song with a saxophone.
Yeah, would sound similar. No, that's fair enough.
I had talked about it in the Discord last week, I think, or it was a couple weeks ago. I think when "Summer of Love" was first released as a single, where just a lot of the themes on this song, you know, it's called "Summer of Love," which that was like the summer of 1967 or something in the U.S. was the summer of love. I can't remember if that's. Okay.
Maybe. I'm 76 comes to mind, but that might have been a summer where it was just really warm over here. Completely
Well, it
different.
was summer of '69, I want to say, because in 2019 is when they were going to have the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. So it might have been the summer of '69 was the summer of love. But anyway, that's, you know, the hippie movement was huge during whenever the summer of love was. The psychedelic music obviously got really popular. Everybody was like doing acid. This song called "Summer of Love," it references the "turn on, tune in, drop out," which was a famous thing that I think Timothy Leary said, who was like a big proponent of psychedelic exploration back in the day. And then followed by that is "Just Another Brick in the Wall of Doubt." So there's a big reference right there, I think. You know, referencing "Another Brick in the Wall" by Pink Floyd. "Don't Know Why the Caged Bird Sings" is the line after that, and God, why am I not thinking of her name? I knew it when I made the post in Discord. Maya Angelou, I think, right?
Maya Angelou. All
really
right.
famous poem.
Oh.
So just like all together in 3 lines in a row, they're throwing out these like really important references, I think. And I just think it's really cool that they did that. And again, it really adds into what the song's about and what they're going for. I think the song kind of really fits in well because I kind of hear it as they're wishing that they could, you know, maybe have been there or experienced something like what the summer of love supposedly was. You know, it's looking back through those rose-colored glasses at just what the good parts were. You know, don't know why the caged bird sings, but maybe we can find out how. To me, that's like, obviously things aren't going great right now, but we could find some reason to like be happy.
That is a really interesting tech. I did not. Obviously, I got the Brick of the Wall one immediately because they've used that before. They used that song. They mashed that up as well when they're doing live shows. So obviously, yeah. But then the whole Summer of Love thing, yeah, it's a homage to that. Which, I mean, they just did an album about Woodstock as well. So obviously, it means it's near and dear to them as well. So you've probably got something right there. Yeah, I'd say you're not far from that at all. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't really got too much to add. You've explained that really well. Yeah, the Summer of Love.
I mean, I didn't write the song, so
No,
I could be.
Are
Like,
you sure?
very
Sounds
wrong.
like, it sounds like you did. It sounds like. Are you not a guest, a ghostwriter on this one? You sure? I'll have to
No,
check
that would be like a life dream though. If they something that they like decided to use, like I wouldn't even care about like getting 50 cents for it. Just having my name in like a Portugal the Man booklet somewhere. That would be like. That'd be all I need. I'd go dig myself a grave and lay down after that because I'm never going to top that achievement.
I did it. I don't know. You still do better. You still do good things, but that would that'd be sick. That would be great. But you can, I don't know why. For some reason, I wasn't sure who who was speaking in the intro, and it turns out it's actually Chris Black, and he's talking to John about something. There's another little kind of like homage to like how Wu-Tang would do stuff, where they would do like a little bit of talking at the beginning, like, oh, this is the talky bit, which I think Zach says in What Me Worry as well, something along the lines of that. So that they like playing around with that quite a bit, and I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's bad at all. They do it for like under 10 seconds, so it's not, oh, they're doing this again. But yeah, just another thing to point out, having Chris Black actually on his album of Namesake basically is pretty cool. I'm glad he's on it, in some way or fashion.
For sure, they had to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, naming the album after him is great, and giving him as much or showing him as much respect as they have is awesome. And I think including that bit and having him on there on the album, so anyone who's never heard of him or never was fortunate enough to even see him in any capacity, whether it was with Portugal the Man and any other endeavor that he had. I just think it's cool that now anyone who listens to this will have that bit of to get that experience if you didn't already have it. Yeah, so it's cool for anyone who never got to see Chris Black with Portugal the Man. He's just right there on the album, whether you realize it or not.
Absolutely, and if you hadn't seen him live or anything, you kind of get that, what he's like as a person and everything. I mean, the whole album is based on him. It's like it's his ode. It's their magnum opus. It's everything they've worked for up until this point, and it's like a love letter to him, which is really, it's really touching.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I just go back to the actual song itself, but the change up for the bridge, starting with "No one ever said it would be easy." That bit there, that bridge, all that. So many different sounds, backing, and with the tempo of the song, it really does a good job of getting the final build up for the finale, and then it comes in and it just hits right at the end, and it like knocks it out. Like we're building up slowly, like it's that last like part of the roller coaster. It's just going up one more time, and it's gonna come down again, and it's just gonna hit. And I just think again, they killed it with that part, and it's probably my favourite part of the track.
Yeah, I think a lot of the songs on this album just have really good payoffs where it builds up to something and then has just a really strong crescendo.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better way of putting it than I did. But yeah, have you got any final thoughts for Summer of Love? Anything else? Anything you think we did touch on for this one?
No, not really.
No?
I think it's just an awesome song. It was a great song to pick as a single, especially when they released it. It's got really laid back kind of summery vibes. And yeah, it's a really good song for sure.
Absolutely. And again, as you mentioned, a single, so probably get a video for it at some point. By the end of this year, maybe. Maybe not. Woodstock took their time with some of the bits, so yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, on to track 6. I don't know if you call this the halfway point of the album. I don't know where, because it's supposed to be like an A side and a B side. I'm not sure. Would you consider this or the next track to be like the halfway point? It's kind of hard to tell, isn't it? I
would know the answer to this. So I bought one of the pre-order vinyls.
Oh, okay.
That
nice.
came with like the autographed picture and everything like that. But I haven't opened it yet. I'll probably do that later. I've had it for like a week now. But I had said in the Discord I almost don't want to like open it. But again, like I didn't have any intention of trying to ever sell it in the future or anything like that. So whether I open it or not doesn't really make a difference. And also, if I want to get that like autographed picture out of there and frame it, obviously I'm going to have to open it. But so if I had opened it already, I would be able to tell you what the last song on side A is, but I just haven't listened to the actual record yet.
Oh, nice. Have you got a deck as well to play it on?
Oh yeah, I've got most of their albums on vinyl. The only
okay.
LPs that I don't have are American Ghetto and Censored Colors, because I think those, for whatever
Limited.
reason, are like limited ones that I don't know if they're ever really gonna do more pressings of them. And I just haven't gone out and looked for any copies to buy yet. I do have an American Ghetto CD, and I think that one was kind of a limited run one because it's got like cork in the middle where you put the CD like in the case, and I think it's even got like a number on the back. It was number whatever out of like 4,000 or 5,000.
Oh wow, they only did that many. That's pretty cool. I can't remember if I have a American Ghetto CD. I might do actually. I have to dig it up. I've got like most of them, but I am missing a few. I've got a, I think Churchmouth is the oldest one. I don't know if I have a Waiter one. I might have a Waiter one actually. I can't remember now. But yeah, I don't know how rare
it's
they
funny. One of the first vinyls I ever bought, and I think this is just crazy to think about. I have no idea how I got this lucky, but I initially bought my record player, or the first record player I ever bought. I don't know if you're familiar with FYE. It stands for Your Entertainment, and it's just like a movie and record store that usually exists in malls in America, in my experience. But so when I bought my first turntable back in like 2014, I was looking at their vinyl selection, and they don't have the greatest vinyl selection. It's
are.
definitely not the best music store. It's more movies than anything, or movie merch nowadays. But they just so happen to have a copy of Satanic Satanist on vinyl. I have no
Oh
idea
shit.
how, because it seems like I see a lot of people ask, when are you guys going to do another run of Satanic Satanist on vinyl and stuff like that? And I don't know when the last time they did one was, but just the fact that I found it in an FYE of all places and bought it for like $20 is crazy.
Fair price as well, probably for vinyl as well. All right, excellent.
Oh, yep.
We don't have. We might have an FYE, but I think they might just be limited to America. I don't think we have anything like that for like records or anything. Maybe they have like an online store here, but no, that might be a US exclusive, to be honest. But yeah, going back
You're
to
not really missing anything.
no, probably. Sadly not, unfortunately. Going back to Ghost Town. How you feeling? How you feeling about this one? It's a bit different, isn't it?
It is, but again, that's part of what's so great about the album is I think every song kind of has its own thing going on, but it still fits in with everything else at the same time. And I think that's such a hard thing to do, to make an album of diverse sounds, but to still have, that Portugal the Man thumbprint on it, where it doesn't sound too different, that it sounds kind of, I don't know, forced, or just like it's not one cohesive thing.
Yeah, no, I feel like the style of this song, or each song really, is very like individual, very powerful, very striking, and this one as well. It's different. I don't know. I listen back to it and I'm like, it fits, but it's a little peculiar, and I think they'll play it live and they'll have fun with it and everything. But it did stand out to me as like a, oh yeah, I'm Ghost Town, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but
I just love the beginning. Again, and it's not just this track. Yeah, I think every song on this album, it was produced so well.
yes,
Um,
definitely.
Where it's not even necessarily that any previous album wasn't mixed well and everything, but I feel like there is such a high level of attention to the smallest details on this album that make every song sound so great. And this is just another one of those songs where I think that really just pays off. I love just how it sounds, that when he's singing "In the Shadow of the Witch, all is clear, nothing's real." That's awesome lyrics, and it just sounds so great. It almost makes me think of like Tame Impala albums, how people always say Kevin Parker's such a great producer and how his albums sound so incredible. To me, this album, I think, is one of the highest quality like produced albums that Portugal the Man has, and I think it rivals the production really on any Tame Impala album.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely been they've definitely been getting it better and better with, you know, producing, and I think obviously when they were starting out, I think John was doing it and he was kind of just like trying to learn it. So obviously the gradual, as the police agree with me, is they're really excited as well by the sounds of it. Outside of, I don't know if they might call that, but yeah, the production is very high. You're right. Yeah, that extra time as well, I think they've spent on this one. I think it's been done for a while, this album, so maybe they've spent a little bit more time, you know, patch some things up, get it, you know, turn things that were maybe like, we're happy with this to, we're really happy with this. Yeah, that's my personal opinion on that. I think the distorted, wavy sounds that kind of speed up and down as well during the songs, that sounds like a 10-year-old trying to explain that, but that part of it is really, really cool. I really like that part as well throughout the song. Not too much more, though, that I'm massively in love with. The last 15 seconds, where you hear like the live show being performed, and it's like distorted audio, and then like, it sounds like it's creaking. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but probably
It almost sounds haunted.
Yes, yeah, like a ghost town.
phrase.
Sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, no,
No, you're cool. And again, I always assumed if it's the part that I'm thinking of, I always assumed
It's the
that
ending
was
bit.
like a snippet from a show with Chris Black. I thought that was him talking. And again, it just sounds almost like a memory through some kind of filter. And that's why, to me, like I said, it almost sounds haunted, which obviously fits in with the fact that the song is called Ghost Town.
Absolutely, that's a memory for a filter. Yeah, that's a really amicable way of describing it. Yeah, definitely. They probably are. It's probably like their memories throughout the album. I never actually thought of it like that. That actually makes a lot of sense now. You get the little talking bits, and obviously we'll come to like anxiety, clarity, which is just, yeah. There are lots of pieces like that. I don't know. I feel like that anyway. Weird thing. I'm not sure if I should mention this as well, but I know that Zach used to play Halo quite a bit. I know he used to play that, and there's a map called Ghost Town. So maybe they were like, maybe they've had what's this Ghost Town? I don't know. And they just had it in their head or something. That's the only other time I've ever heard of, obviously like the haunted setting as well. But yeah, that's a weird
also,
caveat. Weird.
Well, also, I'm trying to look for it. Yeah, I don't know how often they did it. The only time I can say I know for a fact that they sort of did it was in the old live stream of their performance at Bonnaroo 2017. Sort of at the beginning of a track that they played, Kyle played a little snippet of a song. It's a keyboard intro of a song called Ghost Town by a band called The Specials, who you might know. I believe they're from the UK.
Oh, I've heard. Oh, yes, yep.
And so there could also be maybe some sort of connection with that as well.
Yeah, maybe I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, and you're right. I'm getting 5 and you're getting 4. But I don't know. I'm just thinking of other things.
You could be just as right as I am. It all makes sense.
Could do.
Yeah.
Could do. I found out that they
also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention about this song is it again references cartoons in the part where he says "Cheer up, Charlie Brown." Obviously, Charlie Brown is a really famous character, but then there's that like edited voice that's like, "Yeah," and I feel like that's something Charlie Brown does in the show. Like I feel like a couple times, I could be wrong, but there's just a part where someone says something or Charlie Brown's sort of like daydreaming, and he's just like, "Yeah," and so I'm assuming that's why they put that in there. So again, I wonder, like they had mentioned, obviously they're influenced by Mad Magazine and stuff, but then they also reference like Looney Tunes and Charlie Brown, and I wonder if part of that was trying to keep things light while talking about sort of heavy subject matter. You know, they're like, "Hey, we'll sing about this heavy stuff, but we'll also throw in these kind of goofy references to silly cartoons and stuff to keep it from getting just too heavy and depressing."
Or maybe they're thinking about. I think you're completely correct with that theory, but maybe they're thinking back to a better time when they were younger, and they were watching cartoons as well. Maybe it's like a nostalgia thing, because when Charlie Brown is Snoopy, isn't it, and things like that. This kind of lines up age age range for them as well. So yeah, no, I mean I watched Looney Tunes and all those things as well, but I'm much younger than them, so definitely. No, I think that's a very potent point there, Josh. Yeah. Do you have anything else on Ghost Town, or should we flip the vinyl over?
I think the last thing I want to point out, again, I just think some of the lyrics are funny. In the first verse, he says it's a hard pill to swallow, NPCs on the hill.
Yes.
I just think it's really funny that they're referencing NPCs. Because do you think that's a common term? Like, do you think people who don't really play a lot of video games would even know what that means? There was a story in the news maybe a month and a half to 2 months ago, and I mean, I think it's not funny, but it is just to me that, of course, in America something like this would happen. But I believe there was like a 14-year-old kid or something like that. I'm pretty sure he survived and he's okay, but he was stabbed by like a 30-year-old guy at like a McDonald's or something because this 14-year-old kid was like running his mouth to this random dude, and he called the guy an NPC, and that's like what made this guy so mad that he like stabbed this kid, is because the kid called him an NPC. So just when I heard that in the lyrics of the song, I kind of was like, oh, that's funny that apparently that's becoming kind of more of a well-known phrase now.
I mean, that's terrible that someone got stabbed for being called an NPC.
No,
that man is just
terrible.
Yeah, that is.
But it's just, you have to laugh. Like, really? It's just some dumb 14-year-old called you an NPC, and that's where you like draw the line. Like, that's where you're like, all right, well, I guess someone's getting stabbed today. He called me an NPC.
Maybe next time you should try to romance the NPC instead of try to aggravate it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Maybe he should have been listening.
Hit the wrong button.
Maybe he did. This conversation is over.
And then also, in the second verse, they reference the crypto crowd, which again is a very, I think, timely reference. I don't know if that's necessarily going to age well. Like, if someone listens to this song in 20 years, that's like, you know, born this year, is a 20-year-old 20 years from now, they'll be like, oh, crypto crowd, I know what that's talking about. Because I think a lot of people, especially our age, are quite familiar with that. Yeah. I would say part of the internet, more or less. It's kind of, I think, more of an internet culture thing. And then also just because they had dipped their toes a little bit, and there was a lot of negative feedback from a lot of people that they did that. I know they had released a single where it was Portugal the Man and Deadmau5 as an NFT. Obviously, they briefly had the PTM coin that they ran.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, PTM coin.
Rest in peace, exactly. But so the fact that they included that line in there, where'd it go? I just had it. Okay, you want something for nothing from the crypto crowd, a game for me and you. That to me sounds sort of like a criticism of that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. And I thought they did it in a unique way. I've never really been into NFTs or anything like that, but I thought it was cool what they did, because it was a unique way to sort of do a fan club, so to speak, in the year 2020. I think they started it in 2020 or 2021, yeah. And it's just, because it's like, I remember when it first came out, I like bought like a few dollars of it, not as an investment, but because it's like, hey, you buy this PTM coin, but now you get access to like the archives, the VIP section of like the Discord, which again, it's not really like there's that much there to it, but at the time it was definitely worth it, and it still kind of is. I know in the rollout for this album, there were a few things, I don't know if I can really say specifically what they were, but there are a few little tidbits and nuggets that were dropped in the VIP section of the Discord that a lot of people probably didn't even know about unless they were a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah.
I'm sorry, go on. Do go on.
Yeah, I just wonder what their feelings on that kind of stuff like crypto and NFTs are, because judging from that line, it seems like they don't think very much of it, but then at the same time, they dip their toes in it. So, you know, maybe they tried it out and did decide this isn't really anything worth pursuing.
Apart from Bitcoin, I am firmly against NFTs and crypto. Other reasons which I'll explain off the podcast, but yeah, I am done with these fucking things. Yeah, the less said about them, the better, I think. But anyway, not to turn this into.
Yeah, we can move on. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
points are high, yeah.
I don't know, but lots of good caveats. Actually, mentioned there is a lot of caveats. Looking for the lyrics of Ghost Town, you're right. There is a lot of conclusions to be drawn to, and not a bad way. I think in an appropriate way. So yeah, Ghost Town. Yeah. Do you reckon this gets a video, lyric video, claymation video?
I honestly don't know. I feel like every song has the potential to get one. I even was hoping they'd do something like, a video for every song that would tell one cohesive story. The adventure of Tank Dog or something like that.
Yeah, still could happen. I mean, can't remember when Woodstock, but we were basically getting videos for like a good year after it came out. So maybe that would be a nice way to like elongate it a little bit. Give us something to look forward to. Give me something to talk about month to month on here as well. Thanks, John. Definitely. Ghost Town. Listen now, I suppose. Right, we're flipping over to number 7, Times of Fantasy. It's getting a little bit more poetic, a little bit more serious. Featuring Jeff Bhasker, who featured off Heavy Games, track 1, produced it. We talked about this all before. This track, it's very melancholic, powerful. This is kind of where the second half does begin, I think, actually, thinking about it. It's a very moving track. Lots of references to Heavy Games like we talked about previously. I really like this track as well. I think it is really emotional and really powerful. How are you feeling about Times of Fantasy?
I agree. I think it's definitely a highlight on an album of great songs. I remember the first time I listened to it, I didn't look at like the credits or the full title or anything. So with the artist, I think it's like Sean something that does the first part. Just when his vocal started, at first I was like, "What is this? The Weeknd?" And, like I like the Weeknd, so I was like, "Did they get the Weeknd like to sing on their track?" Because that's absolutely what the beginning of Times of Fantasy reminds me of.
Yeah. I mean, I'll bring it up again now. See if I can actually find it.
It just says on Genius, Jeff Bhasker and Sean Leon in the featuring section.
Written by Kyle Quinn. That's a lie. He did not write that. Maybe he did. He contributed, maybe. But yeah, I don't think one of those names. Sorry, we're really bad with this, but maybe there's a bit more clarity on the album version. On the vinyl version, maybe it will say somewhere better there. But yeah, very melancholic, powerful track. Yeah. Yeah,
just the lyrics. I see you in my dreams, and I scream. Like, that's almost sounds so emo, but just the way that it's sung on the album, it sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost not tropey, but you've definitely heard very similar things to that. Pretty powerful. The opening lyrics, almost auto-tuned in a style.
But I definitely think it's him, because I think I'd read he's like a R&B artist from Canada. I think I heard again, which that's where the Weeknd is from. So.
Oh right, yeah, no, you make sense now. Yeah, sorry about that. For some reason, I just heard it. I think this is probably the first time we've heard that level of auto-tune in a PTM song. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. Maybe in Noise Pollution there's a little bit as well. I can think of.
I think Noise Pollution for sure. And maybe even like number 1 to a degree, a little bit.
Yeah, that might be like maybe where they have to do that. I don't know. But yeah, it's very rare, and the opening style, having that auto-tune style, is very much a one-off. And it's almost like with this album, they're trying things. They're like, let's try this. We'll keep it in this bubble, but we'll try this. We'll try it in there. And there's so many different like variations and layers to that, and the different musical stylings. And they're free as well. They're free. They can let's try something like that. We're not set for life from it still. We can have a go. We can just try. We can be creative with this album, and just little things like that. They're dotted around, like the intros, like the bridges being so built up. All these things. It's a collective, and I think it's pieced together. It's built together, I should say, not pieced together. Really well. Yeah. Times of Fantasy. What else? Any other thoughts you have about this one? Not to move it on completely, but
just the lyrics I think are so beautiful.
Yeah.
The first verse, Times of Fantasy, immortality is the ghost that haunts like you don't even know me. Sticking together, we'll be together forever. With a ghost that haunts all the things you don't owe me. Obviously, I think the song's about like looking back. The whole album is dedicated to a friend that they, lost way before anyone would have ever expected. I know it was sudden for them, and so just that beginning part, come back to me, see you in my dreams and everything. It does sound kind of ethereal, as if it is a person like in a dream or something like that singing. Obviously, this song is about looking back, I think, on something or someone that you've lost.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it connects really well to Doubt, the next song, in a way where it's kind of like a 1-2 of like a statement piece almost. Like they could have been, it could have been the same song, but they kind of broke it up, and yeah, the way this one is put together is just incredible. It is really quite almost emotional. I almost want to say, like I was like, man, like you can feel it. You can feel the pain they went through in this and the way they portray it.
Yeah, I can't remember, me and it might have been Amy or someone else in the Discord were like going back and forth. I think there was a few people in the conversation just like, yeah, like this song's amazing. If when like we see them live on this tour, if they play it, we're all definitely gonna end up like crying for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But they're playing Doubt live. I'm not sure if they're playing this live as well. Maybe because the people they need to do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, having them together.
So they've said before, and I think it's been a long time since I saw an interview where they talk about this, but that I don't think they would ever really play an album from start to finish. But I mean, Chris Black is such an incredible album, and it's only 34 minutes, so I do, while it's unlikely, kind of hope that that would be awesome to be able to hear this album from beginning to end, because it's such a complete album that takes you on a journey, and it has so many awesome moments that getting to experience that live, I think, would be such a cool experience. And like, because I'm going to be seeing them at the Radio City Music Hall show in New York in, well, it is July now. I was going to say, yeah. I'll be seeing them in July.
Oh, nice. But, awesome. Brilliant.
And because that was billed as one of their like career-spanning shows, along with Red Rocks, Hollywood Bowl, and somewhere in Oregon, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if it's at like McKennaman's or something like that. But it was those 4 shows that they seem to specifically say are going to be career-spanning. And so maybe I just have my hopes up too high, but since they build them as special, I'm hoping that means they're going to play for longer than they typically do. And because of that, we'll get to hear not only some older material that they don't play as often, but give them more room to play more of Chris Black Changed My Life. Because have you listened to any of the recent live performances, like all the way through like Bonnaroo or anything like that?
You know what? I've kind of wanted to keep it as au naturel for the time being before I get my opinions out there. But I'll start to enjoy. I'm still just enjoying the studio thing, to be honest, at the moment, and then I'll start doing start hearing the live versions. I mean, I've seen like 3 or 4 already, so I've seen of that I can go and listen to. So I'll get around to them. It's been a bit busy recently, so I haven't got time to sit down and chill out to like an hour and a half, hour long set thing. I'm just I will do. I will get around to them though, very quickly though. Yeah, I will do.
Because that Bonnaroo set, the Bonnaroo show, I think is basically only an hour.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But even that was still like amazing. They managed to play, Marching with Six from Waiter.
Wow.
They played like a snippet. They played a snippet of Bellies Are Full. Like you already mentioned, they played Once Was One, or at least a snippet of that. They played Guns and Dogs, like the full version, which I don't think they've done in a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's just cool how much they were able to squeeze into just that hour, and that makes me more hopeful for the show that I'm going to be seeing them at, because presumably they're going to play for maybe like an hour and 45 minutes. Fingers crossed for 2 hours, but I think it's been a long time since I've played for that long. But that would be like the dream, because that would give them so much time to play, the fan favorites, but also throw in a lot of kind of deeper cuts in there that they haven't really played in a long time. And I hope, they go deeper than something like And I, Great song, obviously, but
Hmm.
that's an older song that they have played quite a decent amount over the last couple years. So it would just be cool to hear other stuff. Like, it's cool they dusted off Bellies Are Full, Marching with Six. Um, they had mentioned Shade, I think last
Yeah.
summer, maybe a year and a
Oh,
half
yeah.
ago, John had mentioned that they were rehearsing a version of Shade where I think Zoe was on lead vocals. And that would be like amazing, but I don't
Hmm.
think they've ever actually done it. They had or John had just mentioned it somewhere, but as far as I know, they haven't actually done that. They might have played it it was on the set list, I think, for an after show they played for Shaky Knees in 2021. But I think they ended up replacing it with something else and not actually playing it. So again, just a song like that, it'd be really cool to hear. But then I also do want to hear a lot of the new tracks, as well as the standards. I know John had mentioned he wanted to bring All Your Light back,
Hmm.
and so if they do that, I really hope they jam on it like they have been for a long time now when they play it, because that's the thing. The live version, they go so hard on All Your Light that if they were to pare it back down to really just the original studio length, I think it would be kind of like not the same, because the live version that they've been doing for a long time now stretches out and they just sound so amazing, and I can't imagine hearing it any other way.
Yeah, it sounds like to me that they're going to try and get at least one track from each album and try and do like maybe a snippet of it or something of it and try and include that in on the track. I mean, the only one we haven't mentioned, I think, was American Ghetto, and maybe they'll do the Dead Dog or something like that. I know maybe John's mentioned that actually before, and maybe I'm not thinking of that. Maybe that wasn't my own idea, but it kind of sounds like maybe they're going for something like that. But yeah,
I hope so, because
yeah.
the first time I saw them in 2011, I got lucky because they were still playing The Dead Dog and I think 60 Years. So I
Oh
have
yeah.
been fortunate enough to hear a few songs off that album, but it was only that one time because I saw them again in 2012, 2013, and 2014, and they stopped playing that American Ghetto stuff very quick. I
Oh,
think like 2010, 2011 were really the only times where they played material off that album.
oh right. So if they do a long version of 60 years, is that 1,000 years?
Well, that is. I
Ah.
can't tell if you're joking or not. That is a song, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on American Ghetto as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was like, isn't
Mm,
that actually a song?
yeah.
And I'd ask for Pusher's Party. There's a couple people
Oh
on
yeah, yeah,
subreddit
yeah.
that I know are huge fans of Pusher's Party, and so in this thread on Reddit a couple days ago, where John was kind of responding to people's requests and what they wanted to hear,
There was an
I think I
AMA.
threw
Yeah,
Pusher's
that's
Party
right.
out there. Yeah,
Uh,
fantastic pace. I think I asked for When the War Ends as well. I think those would be like three really cool songs to hear.
the ones. American Ghetto, kind of underrated. Honestly, kind of underrated when you think of all of them individually. Like, man, that's back half of that's pretty damn good. Yeah.
Well, I think I've heard from interviews or just random Reddit posts or something like that, where it's been mentioned that I think American Ghetto may have mostly just been John or something like that, and that might be part of why they just don't play it that often, because maybe
Ah.
it wasn't really something that they all collectively worked on, and so it's almost. And I could be wrong, but to me, I always thought it was kind of almost like a John solo album, maybe with a little bit of input from other people, and so that's just why they never really played like that much off of it. And also, maybe it does have a lot of cool studio stuff on it, and maybe it's just one of those things where at the time they just couldn't make it work the same. They couldn't make it sound as good in like a live environment. Because I think there's some bands that suffer from that. They overproduce their albums, and then when you see them live, it's like they just don't sound as good, maybe because they're not as talented outside the studio. But
Mm.
then B, they just definitely, even if they are good, they can't make it sound as good as what their studio album sounds like.
Excellent point. Yeah. We will see, I suppose. With I keep forgetting you're outside, so I'm hearing like bird sounds in the background as well,
Oh,
and
dude,
it's
I'm
putting me off a
sorry.
little.
If you need, I can. If it's distracting, I can totally go
it's
inside.
it's not distracting. It just sounds like you have a parrot in your house.
No, I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere in a
It's
tree.
it's above you. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, Times of Fantasy, class, lovely. But connecting off from Times of Fantasy, track 8, Doubt, another single that we've had released.
No, I mean, I think it goes really well into doubt. So I
Yeah.
think we can, because that's literally the last word in Times of Fantasy is just. I assumed it's Zoe, right? That's her voice going like doubt. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I made a note of this. Yeah, it's something like the first word of, it's like the first second of doubt, or right at the end of, it's right at the end there, just a doubt, and then it begins.
It's right at the. Yeah, it's right at the end of Times of Fantasy. I'm pretty sure because when you look at the lyrics for Times of Fantasy, at least on like Genius.com,
Oh,
it has just a doubt listed as like the outro at the very end of Times of Fantasy, and then it immediately cuts into the song Doubt. And again, I like that because it is really beautiful. Obviously, all the harmonies and stuff as they're singing, everything's gonna be just fine. Because it's one of those things where I think it's just complicated the way they try to balance like optimism with pessimism on this album. And I'm a pessimist, so naturally and especially with the way things have been going, I'm just like, are things gonna be alright? Because I'm not so sure. And so when it gets this part of the song and the album, it's really beautiful and I love it. But part of me is like, is everything gonna be fine now? And so I do think it's just funny where, as they're all singing like, got a feeling things are gonna be just fine, and then there's that hard just doubt, which kind of negates all of the optimism that had just been built up before.
Absolutely. I think the birds agree with you as well. Yeah, I think it's a magically crafted, deep song. It's really intense. So much emotion's been pumped in as well. You can feel it as well. It's definitely a really good 1-2 hit, as I mentioned before. Yeah, no,
Again, it's like another great crescendo on the album,
Yes.
where it just builds and builds and builds, and then it's like that release of pressure at the very end where just doubt, and then all of a sudden it goes into the song, and it's such a 180 from just the beautiful optimism to just John and kind of sparse rawness, kind of saying life is a dead end and everything.
Yeah, no, yeah, that it's just a well crafted. Just yeah, gosh, I can't really put it into words, to be honest. It's just I still think that this could make a great closer. When I heard it the first time, I was like, yeah, but now I'm hearing it again. I'm like, yeah, I think this could be like an ending. Maybe they can merge this into a Sleep Forever or something as well. Just because it is so.
Sure.
Yeah, again, you mentioned like the harmonies and everything, and yeah, it's just proper intense. I think the bridge, it's another great bridge. Right at the end, the vocal mix-ups, it's really intense. And the song starts building up to the finish, which is capped off by the harmonic violins as well. And then you just get the word doubt. So, yeah, I really like this one. Again, I'm thinking a lot more positively now with the full context of the album than a bit like with Heavy Games on its own originally. So, pretty pleased with it. It's a powerful track, I'll be honest. It's I have to ask who's cutting onions sometimes when it's playing. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It's a powerful one. What else? What else do you think about Doubt?
No, I think it's definitely up there for like one of the most beautiful songs they've ever written and recorded, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely up there with like a Sleep Forever or a Mornings or am I forgetting anything else? Like an Everything Is Golden. It's kind of in that kind of. If you had to like put them into categories, it'd be in that group of the.
The Sun, I think a little bit. The Sun's
Yeah,
like a very beautiful song to me.
Yeah, maybe Smile as well. That's one I've forgotten about.
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. They're good at that. They're good at that type of powerful. There's a certain name for it, isn't it? This type of song. I'm kind of forgetting it.
I don't know. Maybe like melancholic.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking of a different term, but it won't come to me. But I think you know what. I think the people will know what we're talking about. But yeah.
Well, it's just a very almost like kind of epic sounding.
Yeah.
Like the beginning. Not only makes me think of The Weeknd, but even the synths and sort of the ambient tones and everything make me think of like M83 song, which again can be very grand in scale. Like what's the one song off Hurry Up We're Dreaming? I think it's like one of the last tracks or something like that. It's not Congratulations. That's an MGMT song. Yeah, I can't think of the song, but where it's just this very huge sounding epic song where it's just like waves of sound washing over you. Just these beautiful harmonies is really what the song is built on.
Absolutely. There's a line in there which I know Eric likes The Simpsons show. There's a line in there where it's life is a circus, send in the clowns. And I don't know if you ever watched The Simpsons, but there's definitely an episode where they get rid of Krusty the clown or whatever his name is, and there's like a big musical piece with him and his cohort or something. And for some reason I thought of that, and I remembered Eric's a big Simpsons fan. Probably nothing to do with this whatsoever, but I just
Send in the clowns. Those laffy clowns.
it just came to me when I was listening to it the first time. I was like, I've heard that before. Send in the clowns. Maybe it's a more common phrase, I don't know, but it made me thought of that, and I thought, yeah, maybe they were like, as they jamming, Eric's like, why don't we just this and that, you know? Maybe it could be something more political or something, you know, we're run by, you know, dunces or something. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it.
Either that, or even just I feel like how distracted everybody is. You know, with how terrible things are, I just feel like, and myself included, and it sucks, but I just feel like no one's really doing anything. You know, like I think things are going so poorly that there really should be like protests and all sorts of things on a massive like global scale. But I just think there's enough to keep people pacified enough, if that makes sense. So Send in the Clowns to me almost just makes me think of like everybody's just distracted with stupid crap on Netflix, Hulu, YouTube. You got like TikTok rotting people's brains, just all sorts of social media. Send in the Clouds, and because again, I think that's or Send in the Clouds, excuse me. That's just part of this album, you know. Seems to be everything's going really bad, but there's got to be some light, you know, at the end of this tunnel. There's got to be some hope left, and we just have to find it. And it just makes me think of that kind of thing, you know. I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but it's just, hey, send in the clowns, you know. The world's on fire, like all these horrible things are happening, but you know, I saw this funny TikTok earlier today, so that's like, that's okay. Things aren't as bad as they could be.
Yeah, lots of distractions, definitely.
Yeah. There's a new Stranger Things season coming out, so yeah, I guess things could be worse.
I don't know. I feel like we're entering a grim generation.
We've been in it, man.
Yeah.
Again, I think the lyrics to this song, as I'm looking at them, really talk to the whole theme of the album. Where we just finished Ghost Town, obviously, which I was saying is kind of like looking back on a memory through like a filter, and the song starts off by obviously talking about someone from the past that, you know, haunts you, times of fantasies, and it says immortality is the ghost that haunts you. So it's got this recurring theme of something in the past, and then with the ghost that haunts all the things you don't own me. So again, it's like being haunted by your past. Then there's the refrain, which is brought up, you know, in Heavy Games and Anxiety Clarity. It was slightly different this time, but this is Heavy Games. You can't take this back because the future's coming fast. Now you're stuck here forever. And that to me is almost like just getting stuck living in the past, you know? As the beginning of the song states, the person's already haunted by something. And I feel like it's saying, like, you can't move on, you know? You can't live for tomorrow if you're stuck dwelling on yesterday.
Yeah, I personally agree, yeah. I think definition of Ghost Town is, and where this is, it's a collaboration of like 3 or 4 songs together, back to back to back, and we'll get on. They tell a story, and they're sort of painting a picture, and yeah, I think it's just demonstrated really well, really well, and I've liked this one since the single, and I continue to enjoy it. So, sorry, my explanation is not to your level, so I'm feeling jaded a little bit with this. We're getting very deep, and yeah, no, you're doing a really good job. This is why I brought you on, to give the expert analysis. I tee you up, you dunk it.
I'm not an expert. I'm a dude who just sits around and smokes weed and then listens to an album like 50 times, and I just like reflect on what it means. But that's just part of what I've always loved about Portugal the Man. You know, it's interesting too because sometimes just when I see John, especially some of the things that he's into, some of the things that he likes, that he's a fan of, I always wonder, like, is he someone I'd be like friends with? You know, like if he's just a dude I worked with or something like that. I don't necessarily know if we would like be friends even sometimes, which is so weird to say because like the lyrics that he writes, I totally relate to them so much. But then it seems like we come from such different worlds sometimes that like I think in the AMA he did in Indie Heads or something yesterday or 2 days ago, he was referencing what is it? Brendan Schaub or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
that's right, Brendan
I think
Schaub,
he used to be like he used to be like an MMA guy, and he sucked at that, and then he tried to do he's doing stand up and podcasts and stuff, but he's like not funny. But John was like referencing him on Twitter, and I was like thrown off by that because everything I've ever heard about the guy, he kind of seems like a total, I guess I'll use the phrase douche lord. I hope I don't get your like channel demonetized or something.
Where they listen to the first minute, so don't worry, we're pretty clear.
Okay.
I just won't be able to put it for like kids or anything. That's all. Something I do know about Brendan Schaub is that he got knocked out, like knocked out, and I just think once you've been knocked out, you're a different person, and you don't hit the same notes, you don't hit the same, you're just not the same person afterwards. And he's obviously he's had to pivot to do other things, like if your mainstay income, is all to, this is completely off topic to Dow or Plastic Island or anything else, but he had to pivot and he had to try other things, and personally American comedians don't do that much for me, so, and if that's me, that's probably the rest of the UK, maybe not completely, but I mean, I don't know.
I feel like he's like, he wants to be a comedian. I think to be a comedian, you have to make people laugh, and I think anyone who laughs at his jokes, it's, a forced laugh. I think he's like severely unfunny. And again, I could be wrong about this because I just don't follow him. I'm just someone where it's like, because again, they might not even be fans of this kind of stuff, but if they are, I guess it just surprises me because Portugal The Man seems so, I don't know how to say it. It's not like they're politically correct. I think it's more just like aware. It seems like there's cool stuff. Again, I don't want to. I feel dirty saying this, but like woke. I don't necessarily believe in that term.
Yeah, go be careful now.
I think it's stupid. But they just seem cool. They just seem cool and accepting. And who knows? Maybe it's my problem for not being more open, even if I disagree with someone's point of view. Maybe that's like on me. Yeah. But
I definitely feel like you could go to those places to get that information, but at the same time, you could just ignore it. You don't have to intake in it, and not using your wallet or not interacting with things is a great way of saying I'm not interested in this. Just not interacting is a great way of just not proving a point, because if you ignore it, it goes away. It goes away. I do that with everything. I just blur stuff out that's ultra negative, or that's just not a healthy way to live, or that's not the right thing to do, or this is against my views. I turn it out. I tune it out. But anyway, we've gone.
Yeah, but so back to like what I was originally talking about, though, before I kind of got off track there, was just like the lyrics are something, like John's lyrics are something where I've always listened to them and just related so much. And so that's just why sometimes when I'm like, I feel like I don't have that much in common with this person, but at the same time, I relate so much to what he's saying. And I think that's just a cool part of it. I don't know if it's just specifically, certain people, or if it's kind of a universal thing where really anybody, whoever just sits around and thinks about, life and this kind of stuff and is philosophical, would be able to listen to John's lyrics and be like, no, yeah, I totally get that. I'm in the same place, And so that's what's great about Portugal The Man for me, is I've always just really connected with their music.
Definitely. That's That's a positive message, definitely. Sorry, we've gone on a lot of tangents there.
I was gonna say I have no idea how we even got.
Yeah,
to
you
that
had
point,
that.
So that's my bad.
Yeah, that deep in you as well. You were ready. You were ready to. Final statement on Doubt, and do you think we'll get like a video with it or anything like that? Final thoughts.
I mean, I didn't even know we had transitioned to talking about.
Doubt, no, we're not even
but
talking about Doubt. Final thoughts on Times of Fantasy, and do you think we'll get like a video for it or like a montage or something? Sorry, not Doubt. But...
No, yeah, but I think we've said enough about it. I think it's a top tier Portugal the Man song for sure.
No, we were talking about that.
Yeah,
we just were like. Yeah. Send in the Cloud. Yeah, because you mentioned Send in the Cloud.
Because one goes into the other,
Yeah. Yeah, they link very nicely.
But so, in that first verse on Doubt, where life is a dead end, full of doubt, can't keep my head up in the clouds. Obviously, like, I don't know about you, but that makes me think of In the Mountain, in the Clouds. And even just from the artwork on the album cover and everything for In the Mountain, in the Clouds, and then hearing him say In the Clouds on this, just makes me think of John. Probably wrote those lyrics in 2010, 2011. That might have been before Francis was born, I think. And so I always wondered if that was sort of still the youthfulness and coming from a person with the freedom of still being a young adult without any huge commitments like that, like having to take care of a child and everything. And so by having, his head in the clouds, just being a daydreamer, and I know in the lyrics in Senseless, there's the part where he's saying, "What's this young man to do?" Which to me was it's sort of John would have been in like his early 30s at that point, and it's like he's asking, like, what am I gonna do? I'm in my 30s now. I feel like I need to figure things out. And then now here we are in 2023, where on this track he's saying, "Can't keep my head up in the clouds," and it's like saying, I can't be that person anymore. I can't be the person who's just stuck thinking about all this stuff that could be or might be. You just have to like kind of maybe grow up. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but grow up and just be more serious about things.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. And then, do you think you'll get like a video or anything like that, or what are we thinking then?
Like I said, I hope we get like a video for every song. Again, because they told such a beautiful story with this album, I just wish they would have almost like a mini. I don't know, what would you call it? Just a mini video to accompany the whole album that kind of tells the story from the Tank Dog's point of view or whatever that they're trying to tell.
Yeah. Following on from Doubt is track 9. We have Plastic Island. And these came out, I think they came out pretty close together, wasn't it? One was a week after the other or something like that. They came out pretty close before the album.
Pretty sure, yeah.
I really like Plastic Island after hearing it a lot more times, to be honest. It's actually, it's definitely gone up in my estimation. Very impressive, very, very impressed with it. How are you feeling? Do you doubt there's a Plastic Island, as I named the last episode?
Well, I just like how John had mentioned before, I think in a Discord AMA, about how this was one of the first songs they recorded for the album, I believe. And it was like shortly after he was able to start singing again, after everything with his jaw had healed, or was still healing. And so he mentioned that you can hear in the song that he's kind of like not even like opening his mouth all the way. He's like singing through his teeth is how I think he described it. And you can hear that for sure. But yeah. I think it's kind of cool. I think it, again, just a little... It adds a different element to it. It's not a way that we've really heard John sing before. And it sounds good. It sounds cool. It sucks for the reasoning that he had to sing it that way.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it adds something to the song.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way he delivers it is obviously it's going to be different, as you bet. But I don't think it's a miss or it's nothing like that. I think it works. I think they've done a good, again with the production, done a really good job. I think this album's magnum opus is the production, the way how everything sounds. Everything's brilliantly performed and put together, and the fact that I didn't actually know that was the first one they recorded, because I think I was curious about that, and I didn't actually know that. So that's a good tidbit. Thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah,
and just the instrumentals as well. I think a lot of people had pointed out almost gives off kind of like a 90s kind of vibe. I can't remember what sort of bands in particular people have mentioned, But I do think it does kind of give off a bit of a retro, unique sound. I don't know if it was like maybe even the Pixies or something like that that people have mentioned, but I do know that there's a line in the second verse where it says "Pull my string until I come undone," and that makes me think of "Undone Sweater Song" by Weezer. If you're familiar with that song or that band, where I think there's a similar line to that. And then I know that they've played a riff from a Weezer song. It's like the solo of "Say It Ain't So." I can't remember which song it is, but I'm pretty sure John's definitely confirmed he'll throw in that Weezer riff at the end of a jam that they do sometimes. So they're definitely Weezer fans, and I wonder if that was something that they thought about when they wrote that "Pull my string until I come undone."
I did not pick that up at all, but well spotted. Again, I missed this AMA. We're recording this on July 1st, so that AMA was a couple of days ago, but it was at 4 a.m, so I didn't have the opportunity to go back. Yeah, I'll go back and dig into it a little bit more, but we're finding out things like that. It's pretty cool. I didn't know that about Weezer either, so pretty dialed in. I will say it's a really powerful track, hard hitting, as I mentioned before. Despite it being a little bit more chill and like melancholic a little bit, and like those themes are kind of weaved in throughout the song. So it's quite recent, quite a recent release, and I did some impressions on there, so I don't really want to go over the same thing again because I don't want to repeat it. But again, coming off Times of Fantasy followed by Doubt, it's a bit more upbeat. I don't know, it's a little bit more upbeat, not crazy amounts more, but it's enough where you get that variety where it's not just down, 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 and you're like, bit sad now. Like, okay, we're picking it back up a little bit more. I think there's a good balance there. I don't know how you feel about that, but it works for me.
And I think it really reinforces, to me, the big message that I kind of take away from this album, and it's something that I've felt definitely for the last few years. And you always have to wonder, I'm sure it's not just me, where you ask yourself, like, do I feel this way because I'm just, like, getting older and growing up more? And, like, I don't know if it's becoming an adult or just getting older sort of changes your worldview. But I feel like the way things have gone for everyone the last few years hasn't been the best. But so in the second verse, he says, "I'm not unhappy, pull my string until I come undone. It's what the world is. The world is a mess. Sure, the world has got its evil ways. My heart is blinded by ya." Which is like, he says, "I'm not unhappy. The world is a mess. But then my heart is blinded by ya." And it's definitely about, like, things are messed up and I'm, like, bummed out by that. But then there are still some things in my life that are good and do make me happy. And it's just such a complicated way to feel, I wish we could live in a time where it wasn't so tumultuous, there wasn't so much chaos, and there wasn't so much pessimism for the future, because things are kind of scary nowadays. And even people growing up during, like, the Cold War probably would have felt the same way, because you never knew if, like, nuclear war was going to pop off at any moment or something like that. So I think for a long time now, people have just had to live with knowing, like, crazy world leaders could push the button at any second and doom us all, and we're still just supposed to go about our days like worker ants, doing what we're supposed to do, and just trying to find a reason to not succumb to, like, despair. Meanwhile, like, crazy things could happen out of our control at any moment.
Again, losing Chris Black, obviously you could tell that it's had a major effect on them, really hard hitting. We mentioned about how we mentioned it earlier about the memories throughout the album basically being pieced in track by track, and little pieces there and little pieces there, and feelings and stuff. A good homage, and it just really, again, I've mentioned it before, but it just works really well.
Yeah, I mean, and the bridge to this song is "Life is a memory, yesterday is reverie. Life is a memory, today is all that we are." Which, when you think about it, like, life is a memory, When you talk about your life, you're talking about things that have happened in the past. And then today literally is all that you are. Every moment that's happened before today is what makes up your life and what makes up who you are. And so who you are today is the, like, accumulation of everything that's happened to you before. And again, that's one of the themes of this album, I think, is trying to, like, reconcile the life you've had, leading up to this moment, and then trying to understand where it's going to go from here. But you never really know. And nowadays, it seems so much more even, like, out of control and out of your hands than it ever was before. Because, I mean, there's something like COVID happened, and it affected everybody pretty much on, like, planet Earth.
Yeah, it was a global unifier. Yeah, it affected literally everyone. So, I think the placement of this track as well, as I mentioned earlier, I think this works really well. It's, coming up at the end, you can sort of feel it, like we're kind of building up to something, and you get this kind of melancholic, chill kind of this track, and it feels a little bit out of place, but not too much, and it was enough where it was a single as well. So I'm not really too sure. Plastic Island, there's like a barge boat, isn't there, in America, where they throw rubbish on it and they call it Plastic Island? Is that in New York, or am I making that up? Have I seen that on some TV show or something?
I mean, that very well could be something, but I also thought about, there's like this thing, I'm going to see if I can Google search it real quick, but it's like out in the Pacific, I'm pretty sure, where it's this like vast area, the ocean, that's just filled with like plastic garbage and stuff like that. And so that's like what I thought about during that song. That's what those lyrics and what that title made me think of, which again, I mean, I think the theme is about trying to find happiness when time seems so dark. And, environmental destruction and pollution is such a huge issue that I feel like not much has really been done about. And so the Plastic Island just made me think of that. And the thing I was talking about, it's called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Oh, okay.
It's in the north. It's in the North Pacific Ocean, and let me see. So it's like not super dense necessarily. So I don't think it's like something that you could necessarily see. It seems to be saying that you wouldn't even necessarily notice it if you were like going over it in a boat. But it is just like filled with microplastics and all sorts of stuff. It's almost kind of like space, where there is so much space that it's not like a huge issue that you might like hit a small meteorite or something like that, because things are just so spread out. But at the same time, like it's still there, and it's a huge problem. I guess a 2018 study found that like microplastics dominate the area by some like large margin. But again, it's just scary to think about. The patch is believed to increase tenfold each decade since 1945.
Ouch. Wow.
It contains approximately 6 pounds of plastic for every pound of plankton. And then apparently there's a similar patch of floating plastic debris found in the North Atlantic Ocean, which is called the North Atlantic Garbage Patch.
Nice. Oh, brilliant. That's what we needed. More rubbish in the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, the more I feel like just keep buggering up this planet. It is a really deep rabbit hole we could go down to, but I think it's best if we park that conversation. We don't want to become too Debbie Down, and we're trying to. This is a positive chat, but it's definitely, with a name like Plastic Island, there's definitely an environmental idea or concept that is definitely the inspiration in some part way. I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if this one's been a quick description, but do you have any more thoughts on Plastic Island that were about the song?
No, just another really great track.
Do you think this will be a video where Tank Dog is looking out into the ocean? Potentially,
I mean, it could be very well. I mean, they have a lot of kind of outdoor shots like that, and they've talked about how much just the landscape and the natural beauty of Alaska is such an influence on them. So it definitely wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility.
Will Tank Dog swim in the ocean?
I hope not, man. The ocean's scary.
I don't like swimming in the ocean. Pools I'm fine with. Ocean, I'm like, oh, things could go wrong
whales,
here.
Man. They got whales attacking boats and stuff, which I don't even blame the whales, but it's like, you don't want to mess with that.
They saw the Avatar film and then they were like, well, we're going to get ahead and start attacking you first before you attack us. Random caveat. Don't know why I brought that up. We're up to track 10 now with Champ, another single featuring Edgar Winter. Champ, it's a pretty original song. It's really well crafted, and it kind of caps off with that passionate indigenous speech. capping with the heavy guitars and spacey saxophone, which I can't claim as my own opinion. That's what Josh said beforehand. So when I ask him, what do you think of it? He'll probably say exactly the same thing. Just thought I'd jump in and get it first. How are you feeling about Champ for your expert analysis?
I just think it's a really awesome song. The vibes that it's got, because I think there's a lot of almost like 60s R&B and soul vibes on this album, like Grim Generation especially.
Yeah.
Makes me think of like a Smokey Robinson song or something like that, like Tracks of My Tears. And so again, the first, like 3 minutes or so of Champ as well really give off that kind of 60s vibe to me. There's like a song in particular, I can't remember what it is, but I feel like this song definitely reminds me of. So I think, great song for that first 3 minutes, and then when it kind of segues into that like heavy jamming at the end briefly, I absolutely love that. I wish they would have done more with that on the album, but it seems like live they kind of extended a bit, which that's like what that's what I want. I love PTM when they go heavy like that.
Yeah, me too. It's probably some of my favorite. I remember What Me Worry. Did that have a very similar, kind of a similar cap off as well?
The last 9 seconds had like, I can't remember if it's necessarily heavy, but it's just got a really cool part that I remember hoping would kind of lead into something else, and unfortunately it was just a single, so it doesn't lead to anything.
Maybe they took inspiration from that and were like, we'll put that into Champ. Potentially. How are you feeling about Champ then, overall? Because I asked that because I asked you about your favourites and least favourite. I think this is probably one I've enjoyed less. I'm not sure I'm skipping it through the playlist, but it's probably the one I'm the least fond of this one. It's not clicking for me. There's something about it. I don't know, maybe it's me. I don't know. This one it's just not for me. I'm just not. I can't quite nail it though.
The first time I listened to it, I think I wasn't like super fond of it, and it's grown on me. But again, this is a song where it's like the lyrics. I think I'm a little kind of like iffy on, because the refrain is "Stand by Me," which I mean that's like got to be one of the most like famous. Song everybody knows. Yeah. Like "Stand by Me" is such a classic that using that as a refrain while the melody is different, it's still obviously going to make you think of that song. And then there are some good parts, like in the second verse, killing the villain, gonna dance in the moonlight, injecting a spirit so pure, blessed in silence, waiting for more. I really love that verse. I think it's really beautiful, especially the way he sings it. But then you just go back to Stand By Me, and then where is it? The Edgar Winter part. Again, why am I fighting to live if I'm just living to fight? Why am I trying to see when there ain't nothing in sight? Why am I trying to give when no one gives me a try? Why am I dying to live if I'm just living to die? There's like something about that where it's like, I guess not terrible, and I get what they're going for, but it almost just seems lazy, like almost kind of amateur. Like, why am I fighting to live if I'm just living to fight? Why am I trying to see when there ain't nothing in sight? It's like, oh, you're saying one thing, and then like the opposite at the second half of the sentence, and it's just sort of a device of some sort that I'm not really big on, because again, like I said, it almost seems a little amateur. Like you're basically just repeating what you said again. Like, why am I dying to live if I'm just living to die? That almost seems like something like an angsty 15-year-old kid would write in like a notebook or something like that.
Yeah,
like, why am I dying to live if I'm just living to die? What's the point? I get it, and I relate.
I get where you're coming from. I'm not too familiar with Edgar Winter, to be honest. I think other people obviously are, and they're probably more a bigger fan, and they obviously, I really like what he does. And then for me, I've not heard of him, hadn't properly educated myself on what he's done, his discography, and all of that. So when we get to this track, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. It isn't hitting with me. I can't. And then I mentioned this to you pre-show, but the Indigenous speech, which I think is all very well and good, but if I'm playing this every single time I'm playing the full album, I have to hear that speech. And I think maybe that's the point, is to try and get a message across. which, you know, it's an art form that's absolutely they're entitled to do. It's just maybe not the message, you know, that, I don't know, we don't have indigenous people in the UK. I don't know, I can't reflect personally. There isn't, but obviously it's for a greater meaning than just me, so maybe I should stop being so self-centered, or I don't know, self-focused.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily. I wouldn't say it's necessarily self-centered.
Not self-centered,
but it's like, nah. But just here in the U.S., I mean, I think you bring up a good point. In the U.K., it's not really like such an issue, like the indigenous rights and stuff like that.
No.
So it might not mean as much. Whereas here in the U.S., I mean, such terrible things have been done to the indigenous population, going back to like the first, you know, boats landing in New World, they call it, and stuff like that. And even to this day, like, I think the Supreme Court, in the last couple of days, just ruled on something that affects like the water supply for Native American communities and stuff. Basically, like, oh yeah, like, we treated you guys like crap, so there used to be protections making sure we weren't going to like start poisoning your water supplies, but the Supreme Court just decided like, nah, you guys don't need those protections in place. We should be able to taint your water supply if we want. So it's still an issue, you know. Indigenous people still have so much that they have to fight for, and they're so mistreated that I mean, Portugal the Man, they do land acknowledgements at the beginning of like every show. So I think when you put it in the right context, it absolutely makes sense, and it's just really cool that you know, again, they're using their platform in such a way to draw that little bit of attention to an issue like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said earlier about being socially aware as well, being cognizant of these issues. I knew very little about indigenous people before they started talking about them, to be honest. I had no idea, because why would I? I wouldn't know about them unless I'm going out of my way to learn about them. They're not in my life, you know, they've not been in my curriculum. I've not heard of them, but they've given us, we should be respectful of these people. This is their land, and being respectful is I think it's just something we should all abide by, really. But unfortunately, it's a trait which isn't copped by everyone nowadays, unfortunately.
And I mean, I think it is a bigger part of American culture, obviously, than people even realize. I know on my dad's side of the family, I've got like a little bit of Native American heritage in there, but just the part of New York that I live in had a lot of Native American tribes and stuff that lived in the area, as well as like the Cherokee, Iroquois, I believe. Live in the Finger Lakes region is where I live, and there's Seneca Lake, which I think, again, Seneca was like a tribe. The Cayuga Nation, I think, is like another tribe. I think all the Finger Lakes might be named, like Onondaga are named after tribes, but then the town I live in is called Horseheads. I think it's the only place in the United States, at least, named Horseheads. And the reason why that name is there is because there's this dude, General Sullivan. Like, at one point he came through back in like the 1700s, I think maybe post-Revolutionary War, clearing out, obviously, like Native American tribes. I think they might have sided with like the British or someone like that. But so they were waging war against them to take this area, and they came through, slaughtered tons of people, and then on their way back, a bunch of their pack horses and stuff were like starving and died. And they just, Continental Army or whoever, like General Sullivan and his troops, just left them behind. But so when Native Americans started kind of coming back through the area, there were all these bones and stuff like that, and I believe they lined like the main trail, which laid like within a mile of where I currently am. They laid the skulls along the side of the road, and they were like obviously bleached by the weather or something at that point. But so when further settlers came through the area, I think the Native Americans called it like the Valley of the Horses' Heads or something like that. And it was a thing where people would come through and be like, oh, wow, look at all these like horse skulls. That's crazy. And so now I live in Horseheads.
Not to dox yourself, but yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just felt it was relevant because
absolutely.
Especially here in the U.S., I think we owe so much, to Native Americans. I think one of them even said in a land acknowledgement when I saw them in 21 or 22 that like we owe them so much, especially living in Alaska. There's so many things that they learned from the indigenous populations there in order to even just straight up survive.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, with the Alaskan thing as well. They yeah, that is a more heavily. I don't know, it always seem like a more indigenous, not aware, but more represented area of the world. I don't know. Maybe I'm just far off with that. But again, we're talking about Champ and we're talking about indigenous people, and it's a conversation that's spurred because they've put a speech in it. So clearly it's working. So they've done a good job there.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, I haven't got too much more to say about Champ. I haven't got really too many more thoughts. Again, if this is my least favourite, it's still pretty damn good going so far. The one where I'm like, I'm just not sure I can get into it, instead of it being just downright bad, because it isn't. It's just not for me. That's it. It's not, nothing personal at all.
Like, it's got its, like, I would agree with you. It's, I really like it.
You can push back. You can push back.
Album.
You can tell me I'm wrong. No. It's fine.
No,
I'm a big
but
boy.
Like every other song on here, even if there's stuff that I don't agree with, like how I pointed out, I think the Edgar Winter part, those lyrics are a little weak. There's still, like, I love the third verse where John sings, "Turn off the light, break the key off in the door, our history of violence is the prophet of war." I like those lyrics a lot, as well as the second verse, which says, "Killing the villain, gonna dance in the moonlight." I mean, that's just really beautiful imagery, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is, gosh, there are some good lyrics in this album.
And I don't know how deep into, like, Batman you are. I'm certainly not the world's biggest Batman fan, but that lyric, "Killing the villain, gonna dance in the moonlight," for some reason always makes me think of the Jack Nicholson Joker, that one with Michael Keaton as Batman. I believe there's a part where Jack Nicholson as the Joker says to Batman, like, "You ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" And so yes. Killing the villain, gonna dance in the moonlight. I wonder if there's any intentional connection there, or if that's just something that I kind of put together myself.
Hey, no, you're allowed to put these conclusions together. I think that's absolutely fine, and I think there could be, you never know, that could be a reason for it. So absolutely not a problem with that. But yeah, Champ, interesting to see what they do for. I think we've agreed that they'll do videos for all of them, but interesting to see what they do for this one. Tank Dog playing the saxophone, probably. I'd have to guess. Yeah. We'll see what happens. At the time of recording, we only really have the dummy videos and heavy games, so there's at least 9 more they could do. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure they've all been filmed and they're just sort of editing them and perfecting them and touching them up, and then obviously that cadence of release. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't got any more to say about Champ. Should we get to the final frontier?
Oh, of course. Yep.
Absolutely. Track 11, The Closer. Anxiety Clarity, featuring Paul Williams, who has featured during the Kinnick broadcasting, to be revealed pretty much like a couple weeks before the album came out. It was him doing the chats, and I was like, oh, that caught me off guard. I don't know about you, maybe it was more obvious to other people, but for me, I didn't clock onto that immediately, but that was pretty neat. And how are we feeling about The Closer, Anxiety Clarity? Because I think this is just such a unique track. It feels like it's in 3 different parts. The opening, the middle, and the closing, where Paul's talking to you, and the middle about, I just call it Disneyland. I think everyone who's listened to it will know what I'm talking about, and the intro as well. Just such a deep-seated. I'm not even sure how to describe it really. Just an all-round good closing track, I'd say.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you feeling about it?
You pointed out about how it's like the way you said it's like 3 songs, just in one song. I really like that you said that, because it almost reminds me of the last few tracks on Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Starting with like Us and Them, into Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and then Eclipse. I feel like it's a part of Dark Side of the Moon where everything really kind of starts to come together, and it just goes from one song into the next. and it just builds up into the beautiful crescendo of like brain damage and eclipse, and anxiety clarity gives me like the same exact vibes where it's sort of this beautiful build up to this like really awesome crescendo and everything like that. And I don't know if they've necessarily had anything as good since like Censored Colors. I think the last few tracks of that just build up to such like a beautiful ending, and this definitely ranks up there. It's crazy to say, but I think Anxiety Clarity even might beat out Sleep Forever for me. Like, that song is so top tier and killer, but I really do love Anxiety Clarity.
Yeah, it's just so good as well. The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, this is... Okay, they're closing with this. This is powerful. This is powerful. This is you know, it's literally about life and death, anxiety and clarity. That's kind of how it speaks to me. And I really like Paul Williams. I mean, I'm probably too young for, you know, hearing some of his original stuff, but I remember he collabed with Daft Punk about 10 years ago on some stuff, on some songs, and I've really enjoyed them, and this is the next time I've come across his stuff, and yeah, maybe I need to dip a bit deeper, dig a bit deeper, I should say, into his discography and his back catalogue and see what he's done before, because the idea of this is, it's just really powerful, really moving. Again, it's a really good closer. They're very good at closing. This and Doubt. I mean, they've got 2 closers in an album of 11 songs, so yeah, they've hit this one out of the park.
I think you've, like, you know, really put it in like a great way, and I think it's just such a great ending where he says, I question the feelings I feel. I think that line alone hits so hard, because I certainly feel that way, because as I've talked about, things are so crazy anymore and so uncertain that it's just hard. You have to question everything. When I'm happy, I'm like, should I be happy? And then when I'm like bummed out, I'm like, yeah, but there's like still things to be happy for. So I'm always questioning like the things that I feel. And especially if you're like down, you know, if you're down about something and you start to question things that maybe are closer, sincere to you, and you're wondering like, was that the right decision, or is this what I want? And then that just leads to even like maybe feeling guilt over having those questions, and it's just such a complicated thing. And I think this song does an awesome job of sort of tapping into those kinds of feelings.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I can't remember who, someone in the Discord, this is kind of, maybe we could put this in like the overall thoughts area of this conversation, but the first half being anxiety, the second half being clarity, the A side, B side, kind of made sense to me. I was like, yeah, I kind of get that. And then to literally call the last track Anxiety Clarity, I was like, oh, makes sense. Makes sense to me. Yeah. So you were going to say? I
certainly feel that way sometimes. Like, I don't know about you, but like I definitely deal with anxiety, you know, or suffer from it, whatever. And it's almost like what I feel like, to a lesser degree, like being bipolar is almost like, where it's these two like wildly opposite feelings, where I might be stressing about something and feeling like I'm totally screwed, everything is gonna like fall apart, but then just a few hours later, all of a sudden I might just have kind of moved past it to a point of like either acceptance or even simply kind of looking at it from a different point of view and being like, no, like everything could still work out, you know, however it ends up happening, I'll get through it, you know, bouncing between the worry, the anxiety, and then the clarity of just accepting, like, you know, it's going to happen one way or the other. Like, it's going to end one way or the other, you know, and then life will go on afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was probably your favourite bit about this? Because obviously I mentioned the Disney part. I mean, I just think that's more funny than anything else, to be honest. I just think it's a funny quote. I put it on the Discord and people were like, you're delusional. And I was like, yeah, that's just... I'm not sure where that came from, but that's just a great quote that they've just chucked in there. Unless I'm missing something.
Well, you're talking about the why don't you go to Disneyland
that's
part?
Yeah, that's the bit.
Yeah, I just almost, again, it harkens back to Dark Side of the Moon, where they just have random snippets of people saying things, and I feel like maybe they recorded Paul Williams just going on and saying a bunch of stuff, and this is something that he said that they liked and decided to take that and use that snippet
And
in
sing
the
over it.
song.
Yeah, because Paul talks.
Exactly, yeah.
Paul talks after that bit, doesn't he? That's the like one-to-one connecting bit, and then from memory it starts to like slow down, and the instruments come in, and does it fade out? I can't remember now. I think it does, doesn't it? Probably know this. Yeah, we'll say yes. But yeah, overall, I really like this as a closer. It's not too downer. It's not too upbeat. It's kind of a nice mix. Yeah. What are your overall thoughts then on Anxiety Clarity with Paul in it?
No, it's definitely, like I said, top tier Portugal the Man track again. An amazing album closer to what overall was just an amazing album. Especially, it ties back into the same from Heavy Games. It brings back that refrain and really ties it all together. Which again, I feel like Dark Side of the Moon is almost like a cyclical album where it kind of, or maybe it's more so another brick in the wall, or excuse me, just The Wall is what the album's called, but where it ends and then begins sort of at the same point, and that's what this album makes me think of, because again, it's like just the cycle starts over once it's done. And also live, I'm excited. I hope they play this live, because just hearing the crowd sing the ending, like, now you're fucked up forever, like, that'll be a lot of fun.
I think the inspirations are very true to what you were saying about the wall as well. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually, after you explaining it. Yeah, pretty darn clear. Yeah, I think they'll... I don't know if they'll end with this, but yeah, it'd be nice to see what they do with it. Maybe they'll mix it up a little bit. Maybe they'll take pieces apart of it, and I mean, we'll see. I mean, they could do anything they want. It's their track, I suppose, or most part of it. But comparing this to, like, gosh, just something of Woodstock, like the chain is so different. Like for 5-6 years, it's so different. Like I don't know, it just feels like they're on a different level. They've moved to a different. I know they've always wanted to be called genreless, but it's just
No, for sure. Like I said, it's like
ending.
Woodstock. Woodstock was like, let's write all of these songs to potentially be like hits, almost. Like, let's just write a bunch of singles, and then hopefully one of these will like be a hit, and Feel It Still Was, and even Live in the Moment. Whereas this feels like they went into to make an album. Like they weren't just trying to write a bunch of songs as singles, hoping one of them would hit it big. With this one, I think it was way more of like an album-oriented thing. Like during the writing process, I have to assume that they were looking at the big picture as opposed to kind of just doing track by track.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's merited for it, to be honest. Overall thoughts, we've been through every track now. I don't know if you want to give like a rating or a recommendation or a ranking or anything like that, but I'll leave it to you to give your overall thoughts on Chris Black. Changed my life.
I mean, I personally, I'm biased, but I did give it a solid like 10 out of 10. It's like a
solid
perfect album for me. Because there's no song that I want to skip. It's one of those albums that I have to listen to all the way through. I can't just I'd rather not have to just pick one or two songs to listen to. If I'm going to listen to this, I want to listen to the whole thing. Yeah. And it ends in just such a beautiful way. The Paul Williams voiceover, and before you see that horrible forest fire, you see this massive cloud of smoke. Listening to that recently has hit hard because we've been inundated with like the smoke from Canada, and it's just talking about like, wow, that's a fantastic looking fire that's about to sweep through me, and the way he says it is really cool, and it is just like, it's about to burn you up, but you can't lie, it is like this beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, especially with all the forest fires and devastation and the smog clouds that they create as well. Almost the fact that this was written way before what's recently happened in the last it's still applicable. It's just it's annoying. It's annoying that it's true. But sorry, you were on a roll there. Sorry, I'll let you pick that back up.
No, I mean that's really just it. It's like just coming to terms with the fact that everything's fucked up, but even
forever.
In an event like exactly. But even in seeing this like horrible forest fire coming towards you, and it's about to like burn you up, but you like are still kind of moved by the beauty of such a big thing, I guess. It's like one of those things where even I'm just picturing someone like seeing a mushroom cloud in the distance, and being like, "Oh shit! Well, I'm about to get incinerated, but this does look pretty cool."
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be like the last thought you have before you're vaporized and everything. And it speaks to just the whole album of everything's fucked up, but there's still these like fleeting moments of beauty and happiness and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And where would you rank it in terms of? I know In the Mountain is your number one, but where are we putting it? Alongside, below, above? Too early to tell?
It's definitely near the top. Top
Okay.
3 for me would probably be like Censored Colors, In the Mountain, in the Cloud, and then I think maybe Chris Black Changed My Life. It's tough because I want to put Satanic Satanist in there as well. I think those would be the top like albums for me for sure, and I think the order of which is which would just change from day to day. But I mean, Chris Black Changed My Life so far has just been an absolute like home run album for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not sure I could put it as high as a 10. I'm feeling like a strong, like 8.5. 8.5 to a 9. I'm kind of in that ballpark where I've enjoyed 90% of it, 85 to 90% of it, but that's that little 10% that I'm like, I could see myself in a couple of years' time being like, wish they did this, or they did something else, but it's their choice. And I'm just being completely honest, but if I had to give like a number score, I'd give it like 85 right now, which is still great. 8 means great, so great, almost excellent. It's kind of where I'm at. I'm not sure why.
I respect that.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, in the moment, I'm probably giving it a 10 in my head, but I'm just thinking outside, but pushed up very much against the box. Probably 8.5.
Yeah, I would say I might be like a little generous with my 10 out of 10 for sure. It might just be because it's so like fresh and I've been listening to it so much. But I mean, I think I would never give it anything lower than, like you said, like an 8, 8.5, maybe even like a 9. Because as I pointed out, there are a few songs, and one of the few reviews that I've looked at from some random website for this album, that reviewer did mention that the lyrics like weren't that great, and I disagree. While I have pointed out a few spots on the album where I wasn't a huge fan of the lyrics,
you have,
I think overall, though, like throughout the whole album, I think the lyrics are like really awesome. And I think that's with most albums, with even the greatest albums of all time. You can probably find some parts that aren't as strong as everything else, but I don't think that should detract from an entire album just because there's like a couple verses on it. But again, I think that's one thing that maybe kind of hurts it, the fact that the album is so short, that when you do have a handful of verses that are kind of weak, while overall it doesn't constitute that much of the album, but when it's a short album, those 5 verses being weak kind of now are a little bit bigger of a part of that album, as opposed to if an album's 45 minutes, like 12 or 13 songs long, you can stand to have maybe a couple lyrics that don't land all the way, but you can forget about it because there's so much more going on. Whereas this was an album where I think they tried to absolutely like knock it out of the park with every second of the song. In terms of production, obviously they paid so much attention to it, and with a short album like this, I think you have to do that in order for the album to be good. You have to make every second count. I think that's what they were going for. I think John has mentioned before his interest in trying to just write these awesome, short, sweet, kind of pop type, like pop structured songs. Obviously they did a great job. There's a few parts here and there that aren't as strong as everything else, but like I said, it certainly doesn't ruin the album, and I think for people who aren't fans especially, they'll make them kind of roll their eyes. I get that, but as a fan, I guess knowing the context of just the history of the band, the things that they're into, the things that they sing about, it might land a little more, as opposed to if I was coming to it fresh. And just, like I said, the Edgar Winter part in Champ, it just comes across as, and I think I read somewhere that am I like fighting to live, or if I'm living to fight, or whatever, that might even straight up be a reference or an interpolation, I think it was explained, from an already existing Edgar Winter song.
Well, if that is the case, then that's a little unfortunate. But yeah, no, I think we're in a similar position. But I will say that the reason it could be a 9 instead of an 8.5, trivial number score, recommend it. I'd just say just go listen. Just go listen to anyone who's interested. It's 35 minutes long, so they're not disrespecting your time. The production level is there. Yeah, the lyrics, you go, yeah, okay, maybe some of them don't always hit, but we listed so many with deeper meanings that I think that kind of outweighs some of the negative ones in a way where you can go, okay, this balances. Those are just my opinions. And I'm probably putting it... I don't really dislike any of their studio albums. I don't know I don't know where to rank it personally. I was just curious where you would put it, but it's very solid.
For sure. And I just looked it up because I felt like there was some similarity. And so Satanic Satanist is 11 tracks long and it's 35 minutes long. So it's very close, in terms of number of tracks on the album as well as just the runtime. Because Chris Black has... It's 11 tracks, right?
Yeah, it's 10 plus Heavy Games, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got 11 tracks and runs about the same length as Satanic Satanist. And again, I feel like that's one thing that Satanic Satanist, because I like the way you put it. What did you just say? Something about they don't waste your time or something like that?
They don't disrespect your time, which is quite big with things nowadays. It'd be all very good that they have like a 3-minute monologue halfway through the track about, just something. Which is probably why I was a little bit hung up on Champ about the indigenous speech and the little, we mentioned previously about some Tame Impala stuff where we're there's a phone call on one of the songs and there's some people talking on a podcast. Look at me talk about this now, but it's those little things when you listen back and you're like, okay, I've heard this before, okay. And I just think for the wider public, the casual fan coming along will be like, what is this? I don't get this spoken word thing as much. Yeah, it's a little confusing, and I know they've done that before, so it isn't completely. I'm trying to think. I can't remember now. They did a live show where they brought someone up to do. Oh gosh, this is.
Yeah. I know they've done it at least.
It was
once
his friend as well.
Right.
Oh god, this is. Yeah, I think we've pretty much given our overall thoughts of the album, but. If you wanted to look a little bit, into the future, Josh, what's next? What are we? You said it's a bit like Satanic. Are we getting a Majestic Majesty for Chris Black next year? Like an acoustic version? That would be interesting. I don't think so, but
I mean, I think they have already released quite a few videos of them. I think they just did a Sirius XM thing where they were doing some of the songs acoustic and stuff like that. Who knows? That could be in the works. I think it'd be interesting to hear stripped down versions because I know with Woodstock as well, they did a couple things for I think different radio stations like KCRW or something like that. I think there's a video with them where it was 4 or 5 of them together in a more stripped down environment performing a few of the songs off of Woodstock.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's sort of potentially, but yeah. But what do you think's next then? What's their next major release, on what year and in what capacity?
It's crazy to talk about it because the album was just officially released. What has it been? 1 or 2 weeks now?
We're in the second week after it at the time of recording.
Yeah. So it's just so soon. I feel like to be talking about it already because we just had
I know.
a wait from 2017 to 2023. I'm just excited to see them live. I think that's just next. It looks like because they're so incredible live, and it seems like they're really upping their game again. They're always getting better when it seems like you don't think they could get any better, and then they somehow manage to do it. So I'm just really excited to see that. And I think John had said somewhere, whether it was an interview or an AMA somewhere in the last few months, that he's I've been kind of fixated on writing these short to the point songs and making like I was saying, making every second count. And I think he was more or less saying he was happy with Chris Black Changed My Life, and he felt like he had achieved more or less what he set out to do. and he was like ready to now for what's next. Maybe go back to stretching things out a little bit, maybe being a little more experimental. And I'd totally be down with that, because that's what I love about them live, is they change things up so much. Just listening to like that Bonnaroo 2023 performance, already the way they've kind of rearranged some of the songs from Chris Black that they play live, as well as some older tracks, is just so awesome. I mean, the like little tidbit they did of Easy Tiger, it sounded like Great Gig in the Sky off of Dark Side of the Moon. And the vocalist that they had kind of doing, obviously, the vocals. I don't know how else to put it. That sounds stupid, but the female singer that they had, yeah, just her voice was so amazing, and she absolutely killed it. They took just that opening riff from Easy Tiger and made it this like super heavy thing, and for like, it was brief. It was only like 45 seconds to a minute, but it was straight fire. I'm just excited to see them do more of that, because again, that's why it's always so fun seeing them live, is just seeing how heavy they get and how they change things up. Like, I remember the first time I heard them play Evil Friends, but like the heavy way that they played it the last few years, like, absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, do you think that there'll be another studio release after that? You're hinting maybe a bit more creative. Okay, that's kind of, I was interested to say, because previously when I've had you on here, you were a little bit cautious about the future, and after hearing this, you are a little bit more positive about it. So that's reassuring.
Not really. I wasn't I wasn't gonna like dive into it, but like you've kind of brought it up.
Oh, I didn't have to.
So it's just getting into kind of like very speculative territory, because I feel like I do this every time I come on. It gets to a point where I start kind of throwing my own fan theories out there, and if you're cool with like hearing it, I'm totally cool with like talking about it. But I feel like I usually end up being wrong anyway.
We don't know all the information or something. But...
Yeah, but it's just like, did you read that Forbes article that came out like 2.5 or so weeks ago? I think it was interview with John, where there are a lot of tidbits in there that I think were kind of revelations for a lot of people, such as I know some of the members had gone to rehab over like the last few years, which is unfortunate that they're struggling with those problems, but it's cool that they got help and everything. And just some of the things that they've been dealing with recently over the last few years, I guess. It seems tumultuous, obviously difficult. And then I don't know if this is something that like you're planning on bringing up, but I thought it'd be cool to like give a shout out to Francis. Francis changed my life and everything. People aren't aware of what that is yet. Their daughter, John and Zoe, was diagnosed with this degenerative genetic disorder. Unfortunately, I think she's 11 years old, and she's just kind of got some health issues and stuff that they've had to deal with, and it's really a tough thing on them. I can't imagine being in their position.
Yeah,
I do have people in my life who do suffer from degenerative conditions, who are very close to me. So it's like I kind of understand. Fortunately, it's not as like severe as what it sounds like Francis unfortunately is going through. But so, they're just looking for help with that. I think they said that she's 1 in 6 people that's ever been diagnosed with this, and there just isn't a lot of research out there, so they're asking for help to raise money to, fund research to try to help her out. So if you're listening to this, definitely you can just Google Francis Changed My Life, and there's a GoFundMe set up where they're trying to raise $5 million. They're already over $140,000.
Oh wow!
And that's just in the and that's just the GoFundMe. They're also selling shirts and stuff like that that you can just buy. I think if you go to it's just PTMmercado.com is the store you can go, and it's $40. You can get a Francis Changed My Life T-shirt, and all the funds for that are going towards just medical costs for Francis, as well as I'm assuming to also help go towards like funding the research and stuff like that. So definitely, if you're a fan of the band to the point that you're listening to this and you hadn't heard of that already, I highly recommend you go take a look. And I'm certainly not Mr. Moneybags. I don't have like a lot of money to throw out there, but I certainly bought a T-shirt, and I just donated a little bit because the band has given so much to me, over the years, as just being a fan. and it meant so much to me that just a little donation that I could do, at least it's something to try and get back to them, in not just like a business way, like I'm not just paying them for a product, but it's in some little way trying to kind of help them and help Frances, because it just sucks. It's tough that she's going through it. And now, I mean, I didn't want to bring it up before we talked about everything else, but that's another thing that I think is an important piece to the album of Chris Black, Changed My Life. When you think of it through the context of what all of them have been going through, but especially John and Zoe and everything, I mean, it's such a difficult thing that I can't even imagine being in that position. That, like in Dummy, when he's singing "The Light My Life Is Going Out," kind of when you understand the things that he's been going through, it makes it a lot more kind of heartbreaking and serious.
Yeah, no, absolutely, really well said. And I opened the last episode with a little notice about it, because it was the first one that we actually learned about it. But with this one, I wanted to concentrate on the album, and then I'm glad you brought it up, because I didn't forget about it, but we just hadn't got around to it, and it's just I don't know. I don't know the right words for it, but it is truly distressing. It's probably the best, not the best thing to say.
No.
Yeah, I'll leave it again. I'll leave the links, and I've told friends who don't even know about this and things like that. I'm like, just try to spread awareness if you can. And yeah, I know they're doing shows with her now, which is just, it's just so much fun. She just looks like she's so much fun.
She's featured on Times of Fantasy there at the end. Definitely, you can kind of hear Frances there singing along with the "Everything's Gonna Be Just Fine."
But yeah, they'll sort themselves out, and we'll hopefully get her the medical attention that is needed, and then they can continue to do.
But then, just going back to what we were talking about, though, about like what will the future bring.
Yeah.
Getting into my sort of speculative territory, I'm not even sure.
No.
While I think this album is amazing, sometimes I just get the vibe that they're, and understandably as a band, kind of in a weird place.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for like over 20 years now, and they just scored their first major hit, after like 15 years of being a band or something like that with Feel It Still. Just the world has changed so much, and their own personal lives has changed so much, and they're just getting older. I think they're like all in their early 40s now at like the youngest, and they've all got families and they've all got things to do. And just reading that Forbes article that came out, especially, that sort of talked about a few of the trials and tribulations that they've been through over the last few years that I think weren't quite like public knowledge, just makes me almost, in a way, they're my all-time favorite band. And maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I can maybe appreciate a little bit like where they're at in life, but just like maybe there's like a hiatus or something in the future, And it's one of those things where Jason isn't, it's one of those things where I don't think he's necessarily not in the band. And he's done this in the past where, he's taken time off, and they've had, like, touring artists and stuff like that fill in on drums for him for a while. Like, we know Kane was one. I can't remember every drummer who's played with them names, but this isn't the first time it's happened. Yeah, I know Jason has kids. I think he had to miss some shows in, like, 2017 or 2018 because maybe it was his first child was born or something.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
had Jackson on last time, and he was actually at one of the shows where he had to go, where he had to fly off. So
okay, yeah,
family comes first, so that's completely understandable. And they need to get their ducks in a row, sort what they need to sort out, and we can wait. We've waited a long time. Yeah. We got this. We could be patient.
Yeah, and then
and I hope they come back, because we'll be here waiting.
Yeah, exactly, and then everything that John and Zoe are going through. John had the health issues, and then with everything that going on. And again, it's not even my place to say if they want to keep going full speed ahead, like, that's awesome. But I would understand if they wanted to step away from it for a bit, and just try to spend time with their families and just try to enjoy that. As much as they love music, I don't know if they ever could step away from it, and maybe that's part of what's complicated for them, because sometimes you never know what's going on. Like I said, I guess people were saying the credits for this album were a little weird, where like Eric wasn't specifically credited with anything, and for the first time Zach was like hardly credited with anything on the album, and so that to me is like they've all just got things going on. They've got their own lives. Like you said, maybe they just need to take time to get their ducks in a row. And
I know that John does all the writing though, so he starts the songs, he starts everything, but and then everyone comes in.
Even in studio, you know, I think that's the thing. Like, it wasn't even necessarily like Zach. He like is the bassist, or at least that's how I've always seen him. But I guess he hardly even did that for anything on the album. People were saying, or at least not according to the credits. And then in the Bonnaroo live stream, I know Zach, it seemed like he was playing guitar. I don't know if it was like a baritone guitar or something like that, but it seemed like Zach is mostly on guitar now, other than some older songs where he goes back to bass, whereas Eric is playing the double neck with a guitar and then a bass on it, and he's bouncing back and forth between the two. But it seemed like Eric was mostly playing bass, which is different than how it was before. It's one of those things where it's like, I wonder what made them change it up, you know? And I wonder why it seems like the dynamic in the studio was different. When things like that happen, it makes you wonder, like, you know, they're just busy. They have their own life. Maybe they don't have as much time to commit to doing that side of the job. And again, I'm almost like, go out on top, you know? Like, you just released an absolute fire album. If you need to step away for a while, whether it's like a hiatus or maybe even hanging up the hat, like, I would get it. They've got so much going on, and the world is in such a crazy place that if they just wanted to finally focus their lives on other things, because they've been so consumed with doing this, it seems like, for the last 20 plus years, I would get it, you know? I would absolutely understand that, and maybe be for the best, because I feel like even going as far back as like In the Mountain in the Cloud or Evil Friends, there are stories or rumors that I think have sort of been alluded to by John, where he's saying, like, I don't even know if this album's ever going to get made. Especially In the Mountain in the Cloud. I feel like it's kind of like hush-hush, but I feel like I've just heard there is a lot of, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but in that kind of era, recording that album, where I'm sure after signing to Atlantic, they're now changing gears, and I'd understand if maybe some people wanted to stick to their more, like, raw indie roots, stuff like that, and might have been a little less happy about having to now sort of become this corporate band. And I could see that kind of maybe being something that just gets old and tiring. Instead of doing things more on your terms as an indie band, you're now having to fulfill all these like corporate obligations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing all the interviews is probably fun. They probably get sick of answering the same question 50 times.
Exactly, you know, and when it gets to that point, it's like, I get it. Like, you know, go out while you're on top. LCD Sound System almost did it, and then they ruined it by coming back. Like, I thought that was such a power move. They were, like, at the peak of their popularity in 2011, I think it was, when they're like, all right, we're going to do, like, this last tour. We're going to do, like, a residency at MSG in New York City, and then we're going to go out on top and call it a day. And I had a lot of respect for that, because it's like, yeah, you know, if you can agree that you've sort of artistically and creatively hit the peak with that project, I think it's totally acceptable for an artist to say, like, this is where I want to end it, instead of continuing to go on and potentially, like, sullying the image, I guess, or the output of your band by, instead of ending at the top of your game, going on and just making a bunch of crap that sort of dilutes, you know, what your legacy might have been. And I feel like LCD Sound System kind of did that, where it was only like 2 or 3 years before, after making a big deal about like breaking up, they were just like, hey, guess what, we're back. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, I get it that maybe that's something you want to do and you don't want to give up, but
yeah, we shouldn't sit here and speculate about the future too much, but I did just kind of want to generalise it. And again, we could be way off. I don't know. Who knows? But I'm sure the assurances of Atlantic is probably pretty good for them to not worry about the money as much. They're probably a little bit more relaxed than that, but they had to keep just touring, doing shows, touring, you know, writing.
Yeah,
2
unfortunately,
weeks,
that's
album, touring.
how bands make money.
Yeah.
They just have to tour a lot, which that's still taxing.
They had no margin for error, and now they have some room for error, so they have some time. They can, you know, spread their wings as well, which is good. That's a healthier way of being creative. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm pessimistic, so I'm probably
Hmm.
way off, and I don't mean to doom and gloom for sure, but it's one of those things where it seems like to me
You
Portugal the
had to say
Man
doom and
is
gloom, didn't you? Couldn't get
yeah,
one podcast through without saying that. God damn it.
but it's PTM to me is like not just John, but it's like all of them, I
Hmm.
guess. And again, people have come and gone since I've been a fan, and it's not like they've gotten any worse for it, you know.
No.
So it's just that John, Jason, and Zach especially have just been kind of the key trio for so long that to imagine them going on permanently without one of those people, well, like if Zach left especially, it would just be so weird to me
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that, but on a positive note, they're touring an awful lot the rest of this year, so go catch them live then. While the shows
Yeah,
are there, definitely.
yeah, exactly.
Because you never know, we might have another pandemic next year, and then you might miss out.
Yeah,
So go take
and
advantage of it.
the special shows that they announced as well, I think is part of why I thought like maybe they will be taking some kind of break, even though they did just have like what was it, like 6 years or something between albums.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
they kind of
yeah,
got like a break then, even though so much happened. I don't know how much of a break they really got, but because it seems like they all had things going on that they had to deal with. But when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do these special shows," I was thinking like, "Oh, are these gonna kind of be like one-off farewells, sort of like, yeah, we're gonna explore our whole catalog and bust out things we haven't played in years to
mm,
give it sort of like a proper send-off, and then we're gonna kind of go dark there for a little while."
yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably where we're gonna leave the album discussion. I don't know if you.
Last thing though,
Oh yeah,
just to
definitely.
kind of like top off what I was just saying,
Yeah,
it's like I just want them to be happy. As crazy as that sounds, you know, like I don't want it to be like work for them.
yeah,
If it starts to feel like a grind, I would be more than happy with them doing whatever they needed to do to get away from it and get that break. Because they've already just provided so much awesome music over the years
mm,
that I just want them to take the time out that they need.
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, we've come to the end of the episode, but not quite, Josh. Not quite. You're not out of the woods yet. We've got the PTM. We've got the quiz. The 10 questions. So you know how this works. I've got a track from their catalogue, their discography, just one from the entire thing, which has now increased by 11 because of Chris Black
I
changed my
know.
life. So it's getting harder. They keep getting bigger. They're gonna keep doing singles as well. But yeah, I've got one thing for out there. You've got 10 yes or no questions. Yeah. Take it away. Once you're ready, let me know. You've got 10 questions. Have it written down.
So was it before or after they signed to Atlantic Records? Wait, am I allowed to ask that, or does it have to be yes and no? I think it has to be yes and no, right?
We'll do yes and no questions. That's all right.
Yeah, so I'll rephrase that.
Yeah.
Were they signed to Atlantic Records when they released this song?
No.
Okay, so that narrows it down. So they were not signed to Atlantic when they released this. Okay. Let's see here. Man. I'm just so intimidated because you've been striking people out on this.
Mm.
Gee. Do you know, did Ryan Neighbors play on the album?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Are there members of the band on the cover of the album that this song was on?
No. I'll say no. You mean like photographs?
Or like artistic renderings, but that would clearly be like the people from the band.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. Yeah, I'm pretty confident with that. Yeah.
Okay. God, I'm not gonna go with it. Are there 2 words in the name of the album title that this song is on?
No.
Nice.
You've had 4 questions. Your next is your 5th.
Yeah.
Talk me through where we thinking then?
Does the song have any weird punctuation in it?
No. Yeah, no.
Now, outside of my questions, am I allowed to ask, do you count It's Complicated Being a Wizard as an album in this?
Who said it couldn't be a single? Who said it couldn't be?
Well, you said it could be.
It could, or it couldn't. It could just be a single.
Man,
We're on hard mode now.
Yeah.
People were winning every week, and I found that boring, so I'm making it harder. I've widened to everything they've ever done. If John wants to go and release like 30 tracks, just him humming, we'll do that as well. Just add to it, because they're probably up to like, gosh, what is it, like 8 albums, 10 tracks each, plus maybe like there's probably a good 100 tracks to pick from, and you've got to whittle them down. But you're doing a good job so far. So you've got 4 questions and then a guess. So you should get this.
Was it released under the Approaching Air Balloons label?
Gosh, I didn't think I'd be asked these questions for some reason. Oh yes. Wait. Oh, what was the question? Say the question again. Sorry.
I asked if it was released on the Approaching Air Balloons label.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay, and is it a single?
No. Sorry, I had to check it up, and then multiple names came up, like multiple record companies. So I was a little bit like, ooh, but no, you.
So you said yes, it was on Approaching Air Balloons?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay. And you said it was not a single.
And I'll confirm, not a single.
And then I believe you also did say the album does not have 2 words in the title.
Not 2 words.
Man, this is so tough, dude.
Do you want to bring up the discography?
I think I've got 2 questions and a guess left,
you
right?
You have to, yeah, and a guess. You've got to get this.
This next one is huge.
This is huge.
So it was Approaching Air Balloons. It was not a single, and it doesn't have 2 words in the title.
No, the album doesn't have 2 words. You said the album doesn't have 2 words.
Yeah. Is it? And you're counting the as a word, correct?
I'm giving you this for free. Yeah. The word the is a word.
Because my guess was going to be, is it something on the Satanic Satanist?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it is. It is on that. You asked about punctuation. You've asked about. So you got 1 question and a guess. You know the album?
I have how many questions left?
You have 1.
1. Oh man. See, if I had guessed this album like 1 question sooner,
yeah,
I think I totally could have absolutely nailed it down. Because I know what my next question would be, but it still doesn't narrow it down quite enough.
Talk us through it. I won't count it, but just tell us what you're thinking.
So my next question, and I'm not asking it yet, but what I want to ask is, does the song have 2 words or 3 words? But that would only cut the album in half, because every song only has 2 or 3 words. There are no 1-word tracks or 4 words or more. But so by asking that, it doesn't narrow it down that much.
Morning says 1 word.
And then oh shit, you're right. I'm stupid.
Oh no.
But still, that doesn't really help unless it. I'd have to word it the crazy way.
Your best bet is to half it, or divide it into thirds, and maybe get lucky.
Well, that's right. I'm just trying to look at them and see if there's anything about these tracks that.
I could give you the hint. You could ask, have we mentioned it in the episode? Have we mentioned it in today's episode? You could ask that. You could literally say, is it on the first
wouldn't
time?
Help.
But then you think, what have we mentioned?
Oh, I know what we've mentioned, but still, that's like half the album.
Most of them, to be honest.
Yeah, we've mentioned Mornings, Everyone is Golden, Guns and Dogs, The Home, I mentioned The Sun. That's like half the album right there. So no matter what way I slice it, man, this is so tough. This is so tough.
Take a punt. There's no pressure.
But I am going to ask.
Okay.
Does the song have 2 words in the title?
Yes. It does.
Okay.
Sure, down to 5 or 6, depending. Yeah, 5 or 6.
I think it's 5. So I've got a 1 in 5 chance, a 20% chance of being right. Those are not good odds.
I mean, Amy had a 1 in 2, a 1 in 2, and she got it wrong. So.
Oh, 50-50. Man, that sucks.
Yeah, it's.
And again, like, have you repeated songs yet, or like, no? I'm assuming not. Like,
Nope.
You've never done the same one. Okay. Guess I'm trying to remember which ones you've done in the past in the previous episodes, but I can't recall them all off the top of my head. And you did say it does have 2 words in it. I feel like there's
I was going to say the one I think I've done with you before. We did. It was How the Leopard Got Its Spots and Sleep Forever, actually, for reference.
Okay.
Just to throw you off.
I'm just gonna guess, because I gotta throw something out there.
Absolutely.
There's so many that it could be that I feel like it is. But I am just, because when you said, like, you could ask if it's something we've mentioned, which makes me want to think it is
that was a
something
hint,
we've
yeah.
mentioned today. Yeah. But then, like I said, we've mentioned, I talked about the sun and the home, so that's 2 right there. Fudgesicle. If I'm wrong with this, okay. I'm just gonna guess the sun. That's my guess.
The streak continues.
No way! You're just saying that. You're just saying that.
For me.
You changed it.
3 episodes in a row,
Okay.
the guest has got it wrong.
The home?
It's probably the most popular one of Satanic Satanists. The opener. People say. People say.
I don't remember us mentioning that today.
We did. We've been recording for a good 3 hours almost.
That's true.
I think we mentioned it. Yeah. It's
See, if there had been one more question, I don't know what I asked. I feel like I wasted a question somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like the you could have divided up the timelines better. Oh no, you asked about the records, to be fair, but then you asked what album. I don't know. You could have done it a bit better, but I don't know. I don't know why people don't ask by like year as well. Divide up. Was it before this year? Was it before this year? Divide it up like that. Is it on the first half?
Well, that's by asking the like label question though, that divides it between like
You
anything from
one,
2010 to before and anything that came after 2010.
I think as soon as I mentioned the fact that it could be a single, I think you just went. You were like, oh no.
Yeah, because there were so many singles. I think people say The Sun were definitely singles off this album, and I'm sure there had to have been at least one more.
Well, I mean, Amy mentioned I could have picked the Endangered song, and like, who remembers that? That is a deep cut.
Yeah,
not for this one, obviously, but obviously I could have picked it, and you would have been like,
no.
Is it on Evil Friends? Is it on this? And I'm like, it's a single. You nowhere near it.
Yeah, or there's a song like Crown, I think it was called, that people know about, but I don't think it was ever officially released.
Yeah,
you could really throw a curveball by using something like that.
I don't know if I'd do that. That'd be too mean. That'd be too mean. But anyway, it's been a pleasure as always, Josh. Do you have any like final statements or anything you want to promote? The floor is yours before we wrap up and close out.
No, I just, for anyone who somehow hasn't heard about it yet, if you're still listening, check out the Francis Changed My Life.
Yeah.
Obviously, do something with that. But otherwise, I'm just a dude, so I don't have anything to promote.
Yeah, go follow his YouTube, Josh A. Is it Josh A? Josh K?
Josh K.
Why did I call you Josh A? I've done this twice now.
I mean, when I go to the Radio City show, I'm planning on, recording it like I have for a couple shows before and posting it. But I'm hoping that with these special shows they'll just record them themselves. I don't know why they don't do it more, because some bands they'll record every show. Or Nugs, are you familiar with the website Nugs by any chance?
No, actually, I'm not. Do tell.
So they're like kind of like a music streaming service, but not really. And what they do is they specialize in live performances, where a lot of bands, I think, might even have deals signed with this Nugs.net, where they'll like stream live performances and stuff like straight from the soundboard as they're happening, and then save them, and you can like either listen to them with a subscription or even purchase them. A lot of jam bands do it. I know this band that I saw, Twiddle, back in April. They released like their soundboard recording of every show they do to Nugs, so I was able to purchase that. And I wish Portugal the Man would do something like that, especially when Nugs is like a thing, where they could just do it on their own website if they wanted, I feel like. But just recording the performance and releasing the soundboard for purchase, I mean, it's more income for the band. And just being able to listen back to live shows is always awesome, especially when it's in high quality.
Yeah, I suppose their thinking would be, if you want to listen, come live. It's a live experience, come live, come enjoy it then and there, and then you've got that memory. And then maybe it takes away from it. That's what
I don't think so. Plus, I mean, for someone such as yourself, I mean, you unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to see them live.
No.
So with something like Nugs, it gives you the opportunity to have this entire back catalog of performances to go through, and you can really get, an understanding of what they're like live. Being able to hear it, be able to listen to the different shows and hear the differences in how they play things one night as compared to another. I just think it's really awesome. And as someone that's just a huge fan of live music, again, having a way to re-listen and revisit a concert that I've seen is just like a godsend.
With 1G, okay. I just searched it and yeah.
Probably got taken to a marijuana website or something.
No, it's bringing up chicken, which at 1:45 in the morning is dangerous. Yeah.